Water is the softest and most yielding substance, yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid, because nothing can compete with it. Lao Tzu.
Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave. Name straight, new wave.
Inside here, you get an insight and you know something, but you don't want to say it out loud because you're kind of afraid that it's not going to be really true and it'll spoil the whole thing for you, But when somebody makes you say it, then, and it's true, then it just makes it more beautiful of a thing.
Got lots of love. Love. 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 Got lots of love. Love.
Everfrog Esports trying to find an angle they can, trying to find somebody out of position.
We're gonna go through on this. Oh, what a roll! We're gonna take black. DYS gonna go in.
It's going to be a really, really interesting one.
Oh my god. All of this competition could be so damn close, so I cannot wait for us to finally decide who's going to be the champion. We are expecting some chaos, some great moments.
Beast Mode has killed 3. Only gonna really need that rampage, so it's gonna clear it out. Santi gonna get themselves a big old 4K. Oh. Santi's getting rid of 3, clearing out the house.
That is crazy.
Nunji actually kills 3 people.
This team feels entirely different on this faster composition. Now Sagafar is hanging around, getting onto the high ground. Post bomb's gonna stick under Leaky. They're not gonna be able to survive it at the end of the day. Manages to find a 3K.
Rio shoving this Ana into a corner. Woo! One more for the road for Rio.
That is all signs go. Melophobia with 3 Melophobia. Starting the fight. They'll end the fight. Oh my god. Beagle Bus, they have to play aggressively into this energy. Popping off in a moment where you needed just that. Ruby in that backline. Oh, the flick. Looking for it. Oh my goodness. The 4th one as well. Do they get the ace? They get the ace.
Everybody, thank you very much for joining us here on this Sunday afternoon. We've had an amazing week of Overwatch here in CGL. Everything from the Kunoichi Cavalry to everything that's happening here in the CGL Season 15 playoffs. And Ray, a lot of that comes with sending teams home. And unfortunately, this is going to be the case for one of these teams today. Bliss Marauders Tier 5 going up against DYS Fracture. And story of this match, quite honestly, Bliss Marauders, the number one seeded team, unfortunately down here in the losers bracket, pretty much immediately.
Yeah, and folks, when we say number 1 seed, we mean a dominant number 1 seed. I mean, if we could pull up the bracket for you guys, like, this is a smaller bracket. It's only a 4-team bracket. So, you think, oh, 1 and 4 seed, it's probably not that big of a difference. Bliss Marauders were 8-0. They were undefeated, and they only lost 1 match in the midseason playoffs. While Bliss Excelsior, they had won 2 games on the season. Major upset. So Bliss Marauders find themselves in a loser's bracket, need to make up room and work their way back up and prove that they're the undefeated team we knew and we saw all season long.
Yeah, and that also creates quite the situation for DYS Fracture, who unfortunately you don't expect to go up against the number 1 seed in the first round of the losers bracket. It's not really something that happens. It's similar to the Crazy Raccoon situation we just had a couple of weeks back for the championship clash. But either way, despite that being the case, if it's proven that a team that has kind of had as much minor success as their fellow Bliss team, for DYS Fracture, the possibility is extremely open to them to be able to take this one away. It just comes down up to getting off on the right foot.
Yeah, and it's all, with the way we live in Overwatch now, the bans, the new metas, the new perks, everything can change in the blink of an eye. And in this series, we already know what our first map is going to be for these teams, and we are going to be starting out on Samoa, which is not a common first map we see a lot. We feel like we've been on a Lijiang only streak, so I'm excited to see Samoa.
Yeah, it's been a lot, and I mean a lot of Lijiang, like GOATS tournament level of Lijiang Tower. But either way, Samoa, quite the interesting map. I think it falls very much into the typical category that we see a lot of control maps, where each one of them seems to have a certain designation of what works. Volcano obviously going to be offering a lot of the brawl compositions, but if you're on beach or city center, the dive and even the poke really opens up. So I think this is where we're going to be able to see a lot of variety and comfortability from both of these squads.
It's going to be an interesting matchup, as these 3 maps pretty unique in what we see, but this map tends to definitely be a little bit more brawl heavy. And with the brawl tanks in the game right now, obviously we got the Ramattra, the Junker Queen, and the Orisa are the 3 most popular in the current moment, in the current meta. So we'll have to see, but that all can change in the blink of an eye, as mentioned, because of the ban phase that we will be entering in here very shortly.
Yeah, 100%. We'll figure out those bans here pretty shortly. But of course, gotta take a look at these rosters, Ray, as we'll do that momentarily, with the bans very much being in place. And to be honest, compared to what we've seen in the meta these last couple of months, Ramattra, Juno, definitely 2 fixtures that seem to come out very commonly. So it's not really much of a shock that they're banned here right out the gate. But what does this necessarily tell you, Ray, about the kind of style that we should be expecting if these 2 heroes are off the table?
I think we're likely to see Orisa and or Junker Queen, and you're probably going to get Kiri Lucio for your support combo. That tends to be, if there's no Juno available, you need the speed boost in the brawl compositions. And I think Junker Queen has only been peeking its head out even more. So that's what I kind of expect to see on the table. So I'm very excited. And, with recent thoughts and memories of poking in on different casts that I'm not doing, I feel like I've seen a lot of teams running Junker Queen on specifically Samoa.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that as well. We've seen the Junker Queen stocks kind of slowly rising up as time has gone along as well. So definitely a grand possibility for it to come out as well. It can be paired up pretty typically with a Lucio Kiriko a good chunk of the time as well. Sometimes it does get paired up with the Juno, but it's obviously not a requirement by any means necessary. But this is where we're going to test a little bit of that flexibility from this squad to move away from two reliable heroes. And right, once again, got to take a look at these rosters, of course, because, I mean, again, talking about the team that is the #1 seeded team, the team that, for all intents and purposes, everyone would have thought would already be sitting in the grand finals waiting for their opponent, just as Kanidos is doing currently. But, of course, we got DJW and Zaber over in the DPS department, killed the Hog, of course, on the tank, and then Twitties and Milo hanging out on the support line. The double brig, the most terrifying thing of all. And again, the only blemish up until that match was that mid-season final against Kanidos, where they unfortunately fell. So again, I'm going to keep kind of bringing up the fact that it's shocking, but it means they have to bounce back in the situation because it is win or go home.
Only time will tell for this squad and seeing if they can make the comeback after being upset. So let's go ahead and take a look at their opponents in DYS Fracture. We got Ravenge, we got Witty Web, we got Hamburger, we got Winch and Ascend. And if I remember this team correctly, Witty Weeb can go pretty crazy. Definitely one of the players to watch out for on this team.
I 100% agree in that aspect right there. I'm really excited to see kind of what this team can really bring in this kind of situation right here, because obviously with this small as the, EU GM tier really was, a lot of teams got to face each other multiple times, whether that was the regular season, whether that was, of course, going into the mid-season tournament as well. So obviously not the first time for these teams meeting, which opens up the door for these bans to be a little bit more targeted and less about protection. So I'm curious to see how they react in the situation right here. I think once we get to these maps that are a little bit more open, like a lot of our hybrids, our escorts, I think we're going to see Witty Weeb really pop off. But to be honest, if they can start off strong really early on, they're going to be probably the most serious threat for the remainder of the series.
Couldn't agree with you more. And as the old adage goes, any given day, anything can happen. So who knows? Bliss Marauders have already been upset once. It can definitely happen again. So both teams have to be on their A game. And I mean, all the pressure is on Bliss Marauders. It feels like at this point, if you're DYS Fracture, given that you weren't expecting to play a team like Bliss Marauders in the losers bracket like this, you're playing with house money. You ain't got nothing to lose.
I mean, you really don't. If you go out to the #1 seeded team, you can't really hang your head too much on that. Like, it kind of just is what it is to a lot of teams. But obviously, if you're able to go through and beat the #1 seeded team in the lower bracket, that could propel you forward to that matchup against the #4 seed, and maybe you get that train momentum forward when you eventually potentially meet EMC Kanidos in the grand finals. But of course, time is going to tell us. We're going to be able to get into our first map of Samoa to get things started. And of course, Volcano going to get us started, so the Brawl composition is likely going to make appearances. This is likely where we're going to see the Junker Queen Urisa make an early appearance.
And the big question is, on a map like this, what do you look to pair with it? I mean, May's been getting a lot more popular, especially with some of the new perks that they got. So that's always a possibility. But, you know, Cassidy's always going to be a popular mid-range hit scan. You also have the possibility of going with a Tracer or Genji, like most teams like to do, as we do see Bliss Marauders loading up with that Junker Queen with the Lucio Kiri. Both teams looking to do that, but DYS Fracture loading up with the Zarya, which Zarya does have that bubbles to cleanse that bleed status that Junker Queen thrives on to be able to have high uptime.
Yeah, so they're essentially going to have a double cleanse opportunity here between the Zarya and, of course, the Kiriko as well. So the Hogs have to be very careful when they eventually get their ults online. But either way, first fight going to get started, and with we are seeing from both squads, it's not going to surprise me in the slightest if we see some pretty quick aggression here right now. I'm just waiting for the opportunity to present itself, as Saber has to be very careful. No deflection is going to stop that Zarya beam from essentially melting them down. But hey, both sides a little more patient than I honestly would have expected here.
Yeah, as we see Saber already taking a bunch of damage from that Zarya beam, has to look to back up, as already a bunch of pressure applied onto DJW as well.
Yeah, now being pushed into the corner, but Marauders do get the initial point right here, but Fracture more than happy to put their bodies directly back on top of it right now. Going to see some pressure from the backside. Bubble use 6%. All that's going to gain for now as Ravage can be the first person to go down as Big Whip's here to help with that cleanup right there, but it's still trading back and forth. It's all about which tank is going to be able to survive longer, and right now it's starting to become very desperate for Kill the Hog right now, who's doing a great job just hiding around and sustaining.
Yes, both tanks are doing a great job of trying to get out of LOS of each other while allowing their healers to heal each other. DJW is just absolutely farming in this backline on the Tracer, already has the Pulse Bomb available.
Yeah, and right now you are 100% looking, I would imagine, realistically, for the Lucio, maybe even the Sojourn in this situation right now. Going to send it forward, pretty much throws it into Narnia, but it will catch damage onto Hamburger, and unfortunately resulting in their death, and that's going to be finally a fight win coming through as there's a potential back cap from Witty, but it's just not going to happen.
Bliss Marauders looking pretty good so far as both these DPS are having, I mean, especially if you're going to play Tracer Genji, you have to be able to sync up pretty well with your Junker Queen and take advantage of that, and they're doing that so far.
100%, of course, going to get the action started. Considering Rush going to get things going for this fight, but an immediate beat by Millowers right here. Winch more than happy to send it back on the other side as Kill the Hog tries to go in with the aggression. Unfortunately, it's not quite paying off. It looks like it's not going to at all. Just a little bit more stall being given here by Millowers and Saber, but it's going to be short for this world at a crispy 69%. Nice.
And again, that was just being able to have both your support ultimates. So you have the Kitsune Rush, and then you're able to match beats with Bliss Marauder and pretty much wrapped everything up from there on out. But DYS Fracture has time to be able to hold. They have both of their DPS ultimates, and this overclock from Ravage is going to go absolutely crazy because there's no, you know, you don't have a Lucio beat. You don't have anything to deal with this. So that's who I'd be watching out for in this next fight.
Yeah, and well, you're just right on the money on that one. Didn't even really need the overclock either. Already gotten one, then helped get rid of a second with help of Witty Weep. And at the end of the day, that just means you're able to win a fight. You don't spend any ultimates. Marauders aren't any closer to getting this beat online, so now you're able to have yourself essentially a free grab here.
Yeah, but you were able to get both of your DPS ultimates in the meantime, so you have the threat of a Pulse Bomb and a Blade, so if you're DYS Fractured, you have to be very careful about that and make sure you get some of these DPS targets into the grab.
Yeah, but it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if this is a more of a grab that prioritizes one or two people for an absolute kill, rather than trying to find the perfect moment to be able to get through. Kill the Hog is going to go through, going to catch on to essentially nobody at the end of the day. Is going to trade out the tank for the Tracer. Not exactly the best combo within the world right there as Saber tries to find someone in the backline, but unfortunately, only one of the DPS going to find some claim here as DJW doing their darndest to kind of keep up that pressure. But as things are right now, Kitsune Rush activated means that everyone else is going to have to back up and reset for one more fight.
As we see Kill the Hog swapping over the Zarya now, and I think that was a big mistake using that Junker Queen ult when they did. They were already low health, and now the grab comes out, and it's pretty much all over for this round. Ravage with the overclock is sealing the deal with Volcano going in the favor of DYS Fracture.
Yeah, this is honestly, this is part of what I expected, or more so, what you are hoping for if you're DYS Fracture fan coming off the gate here. You need a strong start if you want to try to take this series away, and Ravage clearly showing they're an amazing threat to get things started here, but now things are going to open up a little bit more as we go over to Beach. Definitely a lot more avenues to be able to take without things being too confined. So I think this is where we might see maybe a bit of separation from the Zarya, but as things are looking right now, neither seem willing to budge quite yet. Oh, never mind.
We'll see if that actually comes out. I do expect to continue to see the Zarya, and my goodness, they're rolling out on the Hog, folks. We have a Hog alert. Hog alert.
This is not what I expected to see in the very first map here, but then again, the name is Kill the Hog, so it's not the most unexpected thing in the world right here, looking to find the hook, and it works out beautifully with the combination. Winch getting sent directly back to the spawn before anything really gets started, but it does not mean the fight is over. But with Hamburger going down, that is definitely the death toll right there. So Marauders going to be able to get a good start here, and now the question is, how exactly are you going to handle getting rid of a Hog when, I mean, you're not going to swap to Ana for the ante simply for a Hog.
and the adjustment is to go to Mauga to be able to get burns and get those extra damage onto the Roadhog. The question is it going to be enough? I mean, the Mauga will have a crazy amount of sustain against the Hog.
100%, and it's pretty much gonna be a battle of attrition at that point as well. You already see all the pressure, keeping Kill the Hog out of the fight, and just relentless and pushing them back further. Unfortunately, Fiends need to keep having success honored right now as the point will flip over. Unfortunately, this is gonna be a very temporary situation right here, as it's only gonna be able to flip for, I say, maybe 10% at the very most here, as yeah, Ascend and Witty just gonna have to back out, only give up 8%.
And it feels like Kill the Hog's accuracy with these hooks is 100% so far. Everyone they've been going for, they just nail it and are able to reel them in and make things happen, as we're already gonna have a Kitsune rush and the whole Hog coming into this next fight. As DYS Fracture, they might be able to get to this overclock from Ravage.
Yeah, 100%, and Hamburger, again, just running directly into the Tracer, really hard to kind of deal with. This very much is like having a fly buzzing around you, really hard to kind of track them down. As you'll see, the back out right now is potentially a free flip coming through. Does get stopped at the very end as Ravage gets hooked and gets taken care of, as Hamburger is taking a trip on the coast, it appears right now. It's not working out too beautifully quite yet, as Consider Rush going to be activated here by Pig Whips, trying to make something happen here, but Kill the Hog going to shut that down really quick with the whole Hog, shutting down the fight, and now already looking at final fight territory.
Yeah, 2 ultimates used in that fight, but in the meantime, you built up to your other 3, so you should be able to you know, match what DYS Fracture has. In worst case, even if you lose this fight, you force DYS Fracture to use as many ults as possible.
Yeah, DJW going down, though, does very much open the door for Fracture to do something. And hey, Bliss Marauders said, you know what? We're not going to invest, well, yet. You know, there's no reason to. You've lost one. There's no reason to throw away the ults.
You are down your Kiri, so if Bliss Marauders look to push pretty quickly, you might have to be a little bit more careful to see Woody Weeb in the back line looking for a big time pulse.
Yeah, looking instead, trying to find the one-on-one right there with the one flip. Fortunately, it doesn't come into fruition quite yet, and unfortunately, it's not pay off beautifully. Hamburger, unfortunately, is gonna have to try to eventually go for this cage fight, but I imagine I was gonna assume they might just simply give it up, but instead, they're gonna essentially invest in this fight right here, so hopefully gotta try to find somebody. Miller, though, still has a beat ready to go, and it can pretty much be expended at any time they want. So at this point, likely to flip over, and potentially DJW hoping to try to stop this one right here, but we're gonna see the repeat on the other side of things as we have the trades coming back and forth. But importantly right now, it's the Mauga going down, and this is gonna start potentially bringing the beginning of the end right here. A nice little hook as Kill the Hog keeping their team in this one, managing to get rid of one, looking to try to hunt down the Lucio. Misses a hook finally, but it looks like that miss not gonna mean much at the end of the day, as unfortunately, Ray, it looks like it's gonna be staggers from this point on.
Yeah, we get the kill on to Kill the Hog, but it doesn't matter. The Doomfist is dead. Bliss Marauders, Tier 5, able to make this a 1-1 series, as we will be heading to, I think it was just called City Center or something like that for the next one.
Yes, indeed. Correct. You win the grand prize, which is watching a third round of Samoa. Congratulations.
Hey, I mean, I'm liking what I see. We've seen so much variety in the tanks. We got Junker Queen Zarya already, and now we've gotten Hog and Mauga. Even though, you know, I'm not a big fan of Mauga, I like the idea of trying to counter the Roadhog with it. You know, Roadhog could be a very annoying, troublesome hero to deal with, and you got to pull out all the stops to do that. As now we see even more variety, as we see DYS Fracture pulling out the Orisa, as Bliss Marauders are now going to go over to a Hazard composition.
Yeah, this is going to be more the poke game for DYS Fracture, but for Bliss Marauders, this is what I love to call, I love to classify myself as an assassination comp. They are going to pick a target, they're going to go in, and they're going to give their all to make sure that person dies. As Ravage has been told, no entry, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here, as fortunately it's going to take a little more time to get what you want right now if you are Fracture.
Yes, this Orisa is going to be tough. Basically, what you want to do with this assassination comp is ignore the Orisa. You know, you have those game modes and like Call of Duty stuff like kill the or protect the boss. Now you just ignore the boss. You go kill everyone else.
Yeah, essentially what you have to do at the end of the day here right now. But eventually, someone has to fall over. As right now, trying to find some kind of assassination here. But Kill the Hog is being given a ton of pressure right here. But Lynch will be the first one to fall over right now as Ascend being given pressure right now. You see Ravage pretty much have to hold back just to be able to make sure they have some level of protection, but unfortunately, that means you kind of have to give up the front line, falling apart at the seam, so it's going to be Bliss Marauders taking this first fight, as unfortunately, looks like we're having some stagger kills here.
Yeah, and again, that was just patience. Allow DJW, allow Saber to make things happen. And in that one fight alone, we already have almost all the ultimates online for Bliss Marauders Tier 5. That was impressive. As DYX fractured, Hamburger is now going to go over to the Zarya, which I'm very curious to see. I haven't seen a Zarya comp go against the assassination comp of the Hazard.
Well, you figure the ally bubble could give some kind of help in that situation right here, as you see Marauders more than happy to back just a little bit right here. His window has been expended, but Ascend, unfortunately, not going to have the shoe moment here today, getting deleted rather quickly by DJW, and while Kill the Hog is doing a great job in the back line, everyone else is doing their job in the front, as once again, another big fight win. Unfortunately for Fracture, I mean, they're helplessly outnumbered in the ult economy.
And not only was that a big fight win, Hunter, you also traded Kitsune rushes. So you lose and you force out an ult, but you used an ult as well, so that couldn't have gone worse. Bliss Marauders still going to have 4 ults to use versus DYS Fractured 2, so you got to hope Ravage goes crazy with his overclock.
Yeah, it's kind of a requirement at this point. The longer this fight goes, the more dangerous it is going to be right now. Unfortunately, Kill the Hog kind of throws that ult down the drain, quite frankly. Unfortunately, only uses it on one person who was very easily able to simply negate it right here, as 3 ults have already been used. Beat on top of that, so it's going to be all for right now. It's going to come down to Ravage, as you said at the beginning, to make something happen right here. But Witty has been taken out, which means everybody needs to reset as quick as humanly possible in this scenario right here, because this doesn't have to be final fight, but right now, it's beginning to feel like it.
Yeah, if Hamburger goes down here, it's pretty much all over. Oh my goodness, great stagger. And I mean, you're gonna have a couple people who can touch, but it's just going to be, you know, staggered here. As we, it doesn't even matter when he gets taken down, and that's all she wrote, folks. Bliss Marauders Tier 5 takes Samoa and map number 1.
Yep. Unfortunate, sort of is a very back and forth affair right there. Definitely saw an opportunity for DYS Fracture to do something here. Unfortunately, I think from the moment that swap came through, things became a little bit more testy than you would really hope for. But I think this map here does show the fact that Fracture does have a legitimate horse in this fight right here. It's about finding the answers, finding out what the counters are as well, because I think they did a great job those first 2 maps, figuring out what they wanted to swap to help take care of the problem. Unfortunately, the third one just misses a little bit, but I mean, you cannot let that affect you in a series like this. You have to bounce back, start thinking about what you're going to do for the next map.
Yeah, it felt like the Roadhog for Kill the Hog was very, very good on beach, like just hitting every hook, isolating people. And then when it came down to City Center, you know, it felt like the Hazard was just a big distraction, and it was just creating space and angles for DJW and Saber on the Tracer and Sojourn to just free fire, find kills. That's why their ults were already charged by the time the first fight was over. And then it also gives credence to allow someone someone on Kiriko to be able to take angles and look for those headshot kunai shots and start getting all that damage online.
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens a lot of the time. When you think of classic dive compositions, you eventually think about, you know, peeling for the backline. When that dive comes through onto an Ana or a break, sometimes they're able to help themselves, but when it's sometimes like a planned effort, you have to send back something like your Tracer, or maybe even your own dive tank to be able to stop it. And when that happens, unfortunately, the front line gets exposed, and I think Bliss Marauders took advantage of that more often than not. So now the question for DYS Fracture, as the map pool is very much open to them as to where they would like to go for the second map, the question really is, where do you want to go? And honestly, if I'm thinking from DYS Fracture's side, I think they found some of the most success brawling it out straight up. So maybe you take us to a flashpoint. Maybe you take us to something like a King's Row as well. Something where you can try to force a brawl or rush type style that seems to be fitting more towards their area, at least from what we've seen so far.
We're going to have to see where they go map-wise, because that's probably going to be the importance, is taking Bliss Marauders Tier 5 to maps where they just don't feel as comfortable. So we're going to have to see. And keep in mind, folks, while this is also going on, we have another game going on CGL 2, I believe. Let me Let me confirm that for 100%. Yes, on CGL2, it is the EU Diamond Grand Finals. So our first Grand Finals of the season. So we'll see who's going to win the Diamond Division. So put that split screen up. I know a lot of y'all got 2 monitors out there. Have one pulled up on both and be able to see both of these games at the same time because they're great stories.
No, they 100% are fantastic stories. To be fair, if you have 2 monitors, you have no excuse. You know, just go back, listen back and forth right now. They're getting into their map right now, and we're kind of just chatting away, ready to figure out what our map is going to be, what our bands are going to be. And I still feel pretty heavily about the idea that maybe you bring it to a brawl style, but it appears, right, we're going literally the entire different direction. We're going from a strike to, well, I don't know what to really define or give you I don't have a great analogy for this, quite frankly. We're going to Numbani. We are going to what is one of the most dive style maps possible, which isn't a bad thing because that's the one thing I think we didn't see outright from that first map.
And I'm excited. I mean, this is going to be a lot of Winston Diva, depending on the band's play. I feel like we don't get to see Numbani enough. You know, feels like it's a hated map from so many people for some reason, but I can't wait. I'm excited. Even when I used to play, just because my team was kind of a brawl team, we hated this map and never wanted to play it. Cause it's like you have to play dive almost all the time. But I'm glad we're seeing it today.
We did get to see it yesterday. Actually, it was in 2 different games yesterday, very surprisingly. So it has had some playability. And obviously, typically you don't see a lot of teams struggle on that second point. Sometimes it can be pretty easy to push through, at least compared to first and third. But we saw a hold on there yesterday that ended up coming to fruition. So, hey, potential that it happens here today. But I think when you look at a map like Numbani, I think one of the toughest things to push through is that initial first point, because it's so hard to take control of that high ground, especially if you're running to something like the Brig that can simply, bash you away, or the Ash that can simply coach gun you off, or a Diva who can simply just knock you back just with their boosters. I mean, there's a lot of deterrence of being able to take over that high ground, so you have to be really considerate how you decide to take it over on your own attack.
As again, the bans are also going to be very important, but there's also a map in Numbani where we're not going to see like the classic Sojourn that we're so used to seeing. This is where Ash is going to reign supreme. Longer sight lines, longer range to work with, dynamite damage through the very, hallway like chokes that you're pushing through. Most of the time, Ash goes through pretty strong. I believe we have the bans in from both of the teams from this map. And we're going to be starting with Bliss Marauders and what they're going to ban. As mentioned, the tanks that tend to thrive on a map like this are the Winston and the Diva, given that it's very, very dive-centric. So the big question is, if you're Bliss Marauders, are you comfortable playing the dive, or are you looking to possibly ban a Winston so you're not having to go Winston v. Winston?
Yeah, I'm honestly not quite sure. Usually I feel pretty confident as to what the choice could be, but there's a lot of choices I think that are somewhat viable, but I don't know if there is the correct pick here. You could very much target the support line, get rid of either the Ana or the Brig to try and, put yourself in a situation where you can't run the traditional dive style. Like you said before, maybe you do get rid of the Winston and you just take away very traditional dive manner. But I believe from what we see in the icon in the bottom, it looks like Tracer looks like the character that's going to be taken out, which is quite interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I feel like we don't see Tracer bans very often. We do have a swap coming in. I don't know if that's going to matter. I mean, we'll show you guys after, but maybe that swap is a big reason why they're banning Tracer. But Witty Weeb was one on the Tracer, and Witty Weeb is still in. So very curious, especially when Saber was going crazy, as DYS Fracture is going to ban Diva. So folks, if there was any question about this being a Winston map, it is definitely a Winston map now.
Yeah, there's nothing really that's going to deter them away either, but the fact that we do have a Tracer being taken out, I think makes things more interesting than the Diva, because the Diva being gone just means, yeah, Winston is just going to be Winston. Or maybe Ball's going to be Ball, who knows? You never know at the end of the day, but Tracer being gone means we're not going to be worried about Tracer 1v1s anymore, so this means Sojourn very much going to open up all the way. I think Genji's going to open up further. I think the Ashe is going to probably make some appearance, at least on the defensive side of the ball game. But I think the one thing to note, as we'll talk about that swap you were mentioning about Ray, looking at Crimson, what they have on the board, their most played hero happens to be Genji, so we might be going down that route of a traditional dive style with a Genji and a Sojourn on the lineup.
We're going to have to see. As I mentioned, I do think Ashe is going to be the more popular pick, especially defensively. But given that we're also playing Winston and we got 3 Brig characters staring us on our screen, so we're probably going to get Brig Ana, which is classic with the Winston. So we get the Brigs who like Brigs playing all the Brig that they want to play.
Yeah, the double Brig seems like a likely conclusion here, but wouldn't surprise me if we saw something like the Kiriko Lucio. But nope, we are very traditional, and in fact, DYS is in fact going to run the Genji Sojourn style. And the one thing, I mean, hey, Ray, we're actually both like completely correct here. We got the Ashe over on the defense from DJW as Saber going to go ahead and match the Genji since Tracer not available for this one. So, I mean, this is almost about as classic as it gets considering dive and even counter dive metrics.
Is we do have DYS Fracture made 2 swaps, so Crimson in, Leaky in, who's playing the Brig. So lots of changing pieces, but you know, sometimes when you come to a dive map, you got your players who are more suited to playing dive, you know, or whatever. As had a little bit of a hiccup there as we're gonna get things reset here. I believe the banned heroes weren't banned properly, I believe.
Yeah, unfortunate situation, but of course I wouldn't expect a player to go and make the swap on to one of the banned characters. Might be a bit of a bad idea. It's kind of like you see a door that says pull only, you try to push it, it's not really going to work out for you. So either way, we'll get that fixed up. But yeah, as I said, right, this is about as traditional, I think, as tradition gets with dive as a whole, essentially. So I think this is simply going to come down to 2 major things that are always important in Overwatch: mechanics, but especially communication. Because if there is one style that I think demands communication and timing more than any comp, I think it has to be that dive.
Yeah, and we did see from the side of Bliss Marauders that Saber does like to play that Genji. So I think they're definitely feeling good about Tracer not being here. And they go, okay, I get free reign to play Genji. Let's go. And again, when you are playing dive and you're playing, you know, Winston Genji, you got to be on the same page with your Winston to be able to sync up that damage. But, you know, also defensively here, a lot is going to be on the back of DJW because those dynamites and getting the big shots in are going to do a lot to try and find early picks and not allow DYS Fractured any kind of angles to get on top of your players.
100%, as we see things very much staying in the same here. Get things going right here. Weeb obviously trying to potentially bait us with the Widowmaker. Oh, maybe they'll try for the first fight. Wouldn't surprise me at all, and that seems to be the case. Because honestly, if you just beat the corner and happen to find DJW, I mean, that itself is a major W.
As we see in the end, Weeb is going to go over to the Ashe. So I was right. Ashe v Ashe, baby. Let's go.
Either way, we're going to see how things are going to go from here, because it is a complete mirror at this point, ladies and gentlemen. Which means there's no excuse here, there's no counter comps, there is no, oh, but they ran this character instead. It is straight down to those mechanics, to that communication right here, and Weeb will indeed find that shot onto DJW to get things started here right now, as Crimson getting super low. Eventually will be taken out by Kill the Hog, but it's going to still be rough in here right now. Healing is still needed for Kill the Hog right now, as Saber also suffering a little bit right now, has to eventually use the deflection, as while the fight is still very much even, unfortunately, I think things are going to fall apart very quickly. A support line down, Kill the Hog is going to manage to get rid of Hamburger, so actually, if they regroup here, a retouch is possible.
Yeah, with Saber going down, though, it's going to make the recontest that much more difficult, and look at all the damage Kill the Hog is taking. It is down. DYS Fracture clinically take point A, and a lot of that was opened up by the Ana, and they were able to get a big anti-nade to get DJW down very early on that fight.
Yeah, extremely effective is what you're hoping for in this situation right here. The start that you do need, because that first point considerably can be a lot more difficult than the second one. So obviously, if you're a Fracture fan, you're hoping that they can get through this with a couple of fights here without having to expend too much right now, especially with the swap that came through. Killahog now very much behind in the ult economy compared to Hamburger, who is at least, you know, double ahead in terms of ult charge.
As we see, Hazard coming online, Nano coming in onto the Winston as they get one, looking for more.
Yeah, and eventually, oh, an amazing block right there to be able to protect their Brig. Unfortunately, it's gonna be a very temporary fix, unfortunately. You put in the duct tape on the pipe, unfortunately, only lasts for so long as Ascend will drop, but that's not gonna stop this cart from continuing forward.
Yeah, as DYS Fractured showing us that they clearly are extremely comfortable on these dive compositions. As we see DJW looking for some damage. Are they going to be able to touch in time? They are, as the Bob comes out, and it's slept.
Yeah, but that bubble is going to go away, and that Bob is going to wake up momentarily here, which means DJW is going to throw the Bob in just in time right here, but we're still within a meter away, which means that eventually someone is going to have to go for something here, but Killahog is in a desperate situation right now. Still has the Bob down their face, as we're going to see them try to go through, but Killahog is doing a great job of staying on the point, trying to keep things alive right now, but the numbers game is very much to begin to enter the favor of DYS. Fracture Crimson slicing and dicing through, and eventually the numbers game will play its factor. And DYS Fracture going to have 5 whole minutes on the clock here, sitting beautifully going to the third point.
Yeah, as this has not been close when it's been dive v dive. DYS Fractured is like, to me, this is going to highlight, Hunter, that map pick is going to be so important in this series.
It really is in this scenario right here. I think the back and forth trade from the series willing to be brilliant, but it's not over yet, ladies and gentlemen. Still had to get through that third point right here. Let's hope to find something on the Hazard ult. You're going to get one way in the back, though, so unfortunately, you don't have something like the Tracer to safely follow it up. So now, things get a little difficult, but we perhaps getting a little too much than what they paid for, and is left in a bit of a rough situation as Fracture, just for the time being, going to back out and reset.
And this is the sub-map where the dive will start to struggle a little bit more. You don't have a lot of free angles, free high ground to be able to take and dive upon. So this is where the Hazard's going to find a lot more value, and you see that happening already. But also, to me, that was, what are you doing frontlining on Ash?
I know, sometimes you feel a little brave, a little frisky. It is essentially just what happens sometimes. But either way, next fight, get ready to set up here with Leaky being down, though. Unfortunately, it's another scenario of them just having to, like, just reset. You can't do anything. You're not going to accomplish anything. You need to reset. I think you need to start out with that Nano Blade, quite honestly.
As the Bastion cheese is already coming out from the side of Bliss Marauders. If your DYS playing this Winston Cup, it's going to be that much more difficult now that you have to deal with a Bastion. Plenty of ults to be used in this fight, though, so they might be able to just brute force it with ults.
Honestly, I think that's probably the answer at this point. It's not going to be easy to break through by, you know, any metric, but it has to eventually happen. Like, you have to eventually use the ult right here for the Nano Blade being activated in the room right here. No sleep to the name, going to get knocked back momentarily, and the Bash as well coming in, hoping to find something. Unfortunately, it's not going to stop the double kill from coming through right here. As things still very much going back and forth, but at the end of the day, this is only really going to go in the favor of Bliss Marauders, even though it is a 2v2. The spawns for them much closer.
Yeah, you might get a little bit of distance for the side of DYS Fracture, but in the end, it's not going to matter as much as the Genji 1v1 ends in, I mean, not honorable 1v1 as Hamburger came in and interrupted that.
Yeah, definitely a situation right here, as we're going to see. Hoping to find something. The Bastion ult, unfortunately, not going to do a whole lot. It's not the great ult for a reason, ladies and gentlemen, but Killahog very much making up for it because it does cause a little bit of separation. Leaves Witty Weep an unfortunate scenario to be taken out. And now for DYS Fracture, once again, a scenario where it's hard to really invest here. But if you know ults are on the table, I was going to say you might as well dive in. But unfortunately for Hamburger, it's get out of dodge time.
Yeah, and in the meantime, you're gonna have the down 4 and the rally to go up against this Winston Primal Rage. As Crimson has swapped over to the Cassidy, so you're gonna have that mid-range, and you have the ability, you know, to possibly, you know, inhibit the Hazard, and also just shoot at the Bastion from a distance.
100% right here is obviously Kill the Hog ready to go. An extremely powerful ultimate on the table here right now, hoping to find something as the Bastion is going to be simply walked into. I think Hamburger is going to try to just boom somebody off here, looking to do it to the Brig right now. The rally though is here, the sleep is here right now. The Bastion turning, getting obliterated at the moment right now, but Kill the Hog has gone down right now. Witty Wave has been given the nano on top of that, hoping to be able to break through, make this happen right now with 1.5 meters left on the table right now, but it's DJW hoping to stop things right here. 1K, 2K right now, Xavier there to follow things up. It looked like a breakthrough momentarily, unfortunately, gonna be stopped just short, and now maybe one more fight left to be able to break through.
Yeah, is that, I'm gonna call it grenade, the grenade perk for Bastion, I'm gonna call it. Coming through very strong as we see DYS Fracture making a swap. Hamburger's now gonna go over to the Sigma. So now they're playing a poke composition with their own Bastion. I mean, the big question is and now we see Kill the Hog making a swap over to the Zarya, seeing the Sigma coming out, which Zarya, great matchup into the Sigma.
100% right now, and 20 seconds left on the clock. DJW can be more than happy to send that all forward. Everyone needs to be careful, kind of give a little bit of separation, or else something like that is gonna happen. As Witty Wave needs to try to drill somebody down right here. Unfortunately, gonna break through that shield, and with 10 seconds on the board, I think this might be the stopping point right here, ladies and gentlemen. It is so dangerously close to getting the final finish right now, but all it's going to be is feeding onto the point, trying to activate it in overtime. That will never come. So good attack overall, but I mean, Ray, you had 5 minutes going into that final point, and with that 5 minutes, unfortunately, not able to finish the match.
Yeah, and to me that shows, like, when the dive isn't as viable, Bliss is the one that comes through strong in the other compositions, because that third point is the worst point for the Winston, and it just didn't go well, and then they just played, you know, roulette with their tank, and they just were never able to get their footing down as Bliss Marauders showed their strength, you know, outside of, you know, facing Winston v. Winston. Now, the big question is, with the first 2 points being so strong toward the Winston, how are Bliss Marauders going to find their way to get to third point where they're going to be favored? And if they can get to third point, you favor their chances of being able to win this map.
Yeah, I mean, some of it's going to simply come down to an ult economy. Obviously, if you're able to go into something like a Nano Blade, whether sometimes you have that rally or not, it can definitely create a position to where it's really hard to do anything about it. We kind of saw it from one of those previous fights where, you know, you saw Saber simply going with the Blade and essentially get the 2K, despite the fact that Leaky ended up giving essentially their life trying to use that rally to stop them. So, like I said, ult usage can be plenty important here, but one thing that is interesting, we see a far up currently picked, and it's not certain quite yet, but to be honest, I would not hate it in the slightest.
I think the interesting thing is we're seeing DYS Fracture pull out the Hazard on the defense when they were so good in the Winston matchup, as Bliss Marauders is also going to play the Winston for this attack. So I'm a little surprised they're so quick to abandon the Winston, especially on a first point defense like this.
At 100% right here, but just gotta have to see how it plays out to get things started right now, as DJW is going to have to contest with the danger that is Witty Wave hanging by, as Big Webs has been taken care of, but Hamburger is unfortunately in a little too deep, which means you could push this in a 4v4, I think, with relative ease right here. And now it's DJW, but you gotta go down, get the mega health pack right now, as Saber entering a 1v1 momentarily became a 4v1 in the blink of an eye, and now unfortunately things falling apart at these seams. Mini health pack is going to be there. Unfortunately, it's only going to prolong their death, as unfortunately for DYS Fracture, Bliss Marauders look like they're going to get a pretty quick cap here.
Yeah, as they're looking impressive, and they got to get these supports down because it's not that. There you go. That's what you needed. Now, basically, any re-engagement coming in from DYS Fracture is just not going to work because there's no healing available. Hazard is going to go down, and the point cap will go to Bliss Marauders Tier 5. As, again, we talked about, you know, in the Winston v. Winston, they were kind of struggling, but the fact that DYS Fractured abandoned it, went to the Hazard, they're feeling like, okay, we're comfortable with this Winston versus the Hazard. We're playing you pretty, you know, head-to-head on this.
Yeah, essentially. But either way, you know, despite the quick start, I mean, we saw a quick start from DYS Fracture, you know, things can still very much go wrong for Marauders in the situation right here. But, I mean, this goes back to what you have already said previously, Ray, about having the Winston in there instead. It was working so well previously, and now the Hazard, that seems, unfortunately, it feels like it's a character that either works really well or it doesn't at all.
We're gonna have to see. I do like the swap on the Sombra. It can be a very devastating hero if played correctly and getting these hacks on. There's the Nanos now gonna come in on to kill the Hog. They found Witty Weeb.
Yeah, and now things getting a little more dangerous this time. Moves along here as DYS Spectre essentially falling apart at the seams, unfortunately. A lot of swaps coming through right here, and to be honest, when we get in this situation where we see teams start swapping around everything, trying to make something work, it unfortunately enters the area of desperation.
Yeah, with how far away the spawns are, that is going to be likely the point to capture. The hazard is going to touch, but for how long the barrage comes in, it might wrap things up.
Yeah, now 5.5 minutes on the clock. Things entering a very dangerous territory. You're going to get Ascend getting killed late as well. Witty Weeb is going to be the exact same spot momentarily. And now, I mean, the best hope you have is hopefully to go with this EMP and create some opening to get some momentum back on your side.
It's kind of what I talked about too. This is where the Winston starts to lose a little bit of its, advantage. But also, this is where Bliss swapped to a Bastion. The problem is, if you swap to Bastion, you're going up against a Genji who can deflect a lot of that damage. But don't even need the EMP with a manual hack like that.
Yeah, essentially right there with the tank gone. I mean, 9 times out of 10, that screams, hey, let's just reset. Take a fight for a different day, and no matter all the ults that are available, if this EMP hits the way they want it to, those ults will essentially mean nothing. But either way, we're gonna see if that's gonna happen or not. Witty Weeb gonna get pushed back pretty much immediately as DJW gets separated away as Hamburger doing a really good job of just keeping themselves in the room, being able to get some natural cover, I guess some artificial cover too, for that matter. Right here's the EMP activated, gonna catch on to all 3 members that had ultimates. Kill the Hog though is going to live long enough to keep that Primal Rage online and try to do something right here. Hamburger is going to get separated momentarily right now, but is literally pincering themselves between the high ground to try and stop that, but unfortunately the deflection is going to eventually shut things down, and now things going back to a very dangerous territory for Fracture.
Yeah, I'm not sure that was a great use of the EMP. They're already backing out, looking to get out, and you only got one, and you lost your hazard in the game. The Nano Blade comes out.
Yeah, but gets trapped down right now, so the very least is going to stop some of the bleeding pushback as well. A great negation right here. Keeps it a 44, but they do have to go back and eventually try to touch this point as the Nano given over to Hamburger, trying to stop the bleeding in the end from coming through here right now. And I think with the pick onto Milliwer, we have likely found it right here, as the rest going to eventually be picked off. So it does stop that bleeding, but the problem is you emptied the ult bank, you've making a couple swamps over right now, and unfortunately Witty Weeb could be the tool, or more so, not Witty Weeb. Well, Witty Weeb is the tool to try to stop this from happening, honestly.
Witty Weeb and Leaky. You'll have Kitsune Rush and Overclock as we see Kill the Hog now swapping over to the Orisa. As again, they're looking to just play a little bit more patient. They use their ults. DJW might be able to build up to an Overclock as Crimson is now going to swap over to the Mei.
Yeah, which, you know what? I don't hate it. It's a great sustain tool. It can offer quite a bit of damage and can really help out in terms of blocking them out like that. But despite the fact that literally nobody else is in sight with that wall there, they still end up losing somebody within that fight. But it being a 4v4, again, is going to benefit DYS Fracture here. Way closer spawns, and Bliss Marauders know this and are simply going to back out, take a reset.
Yeah, but you also pretty much got out that Overclock without having to do a full team reset. So I think you're going to take that. So now you can Kitsune Rush versus your Overclock and hopefully make something happen. And if this fight goes on long enough as well, you'll be able to commit a Nano to this fight as well.
Yeah, 100% right here. And honestly, you can kind of take this next minute and have to build up towards those ultimates as well and kind of just take aggression so Fracture has to eventually use them. But the problem here right now is, ults or not, they're now having a big problem trying to break through this corner. So
yeah, they continue to lose someone early on every single time, and that is not something you can have. I mean, if you get them to commit ults, then that's fine, but you're not getting that ult commit. You're just letting them have free kills, and you keep having a reset.
Yeah, Kitsune Rush going to be activated, though. Going to try to create some separation as Kill the Hog will, I was going to say, eventually should fall right now, but Freeze is going to be thrown in right now over onto Nano. Going to catch on to DJW, and one of them need to be caught here eventually right now, but DJW is clearing house right now. Crimson gets taken care of. DJW wants to end this right here now. 3K eventually is going to help get rid of the fourth. You can try to find the fifth, but at this point, it's just going to be the Staggers trying to run to the point, trying to make something happen.
Yeah, this is going to be the Genji to touch, and with the big anti-nade, DJW is down. This has a window of opportunity now for the defense to continue as we see the back up. Wow, clutch nade coming in once again.
That is incredible. And now with a minute left on the clock here, Witty Weeb gonna make the swap over. And they have literally almost full sailed all these swaps. The only thing that has still been consistent has been the Hazard and the Ana. They are doing everything in their power to make something happen and to be...
3 ults for Bliss, though, as they have a Sim and a Bastion with some desperation swaps coming in.
Yeah, but Gold Form gonna be used very quickly by Kill the Hawk here, which means you're gonna be looking for that Terror Switch to go towards that back right area. They're gonna go down, not gonna be able to have it, but is gonna stop it from hitting themselves and stopping a lot of it from going down as well. And that means there are no tools left at the disposal for DYS Fracture. They are at the mercy, but Crimson somehow manages to catch on to Saber, of all people, by the way. This is getting dangerous, and now Bliss Marauders have to reset for one more giant fight.
Yeah, and because of another early pick on from DYS Fracture, you'll at least have a Kitsune Rush to go up against these 3 ults that Bliss has.
Yeah, and they're gonna dump the ult to try to get rid of them, and Kill the Hawk doesn't get it out on time, unfortunately. Things are falling apart at the seams. This should have been a slam dunk at the end of the day, but the overtime is at least going to be activated here by Saber right now, but they're falling apart at the seams with Kill the Hawk trying to make it back on the ball, but they're being assassinated one by one. By golly, everybody, they have managed to do it. Gonna tie up the series. 5.5 minute hold here on 3rd point. My God, Fracture clearly making this one a series.
Huge clutch up from DYS Fracture, but what a drop of the spaghetti from Bliss Marauders Tier 5. They had 3 ultimates going up against a single Kitsune Rush, and they couldn't make things happen. Every single time, someone kept peeking too much, allowing the likes of the Sojourn for DYS Fracture to continue to get those early pick-ons, and they just kept making big-time mistakes, and DYS Fracture capitalized on it.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate situation for Bliss Marauders, who felt like they had every bit of momentum going into the world, going to that 3rd point, but that was honestly the case for both sides. The only difference is one happened to push it a few meters forward more. It's an unfortunate situation, but 3rd point is hard to break through for a very good reason. Those close spawns, that hard corner to break through, where the only route you really have is to go literally all the way around the left side to try to create something, but unfortunately, it just did not come to fruition. So, Ray, I think at the end of the day, both teams seem to have an idea right here of what they want to try to run against the other. The question is, I think realistically, who is going to mess up their picks first between the bands and the map? Because we have yelled already how important that is, and I think the picks have been relatively perfect the first 2 maps, so I think for these next 2, maybe even 3, it's going to stay just as important, if not more.
As we are going to find out right after we take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, folks. Grab a drink, grab a snack, because this has been one crazy matchup. We'll be right back.
Feel my heart, it's beat tight. All my body's breathing, it's just you and me. Feel
Everybody, welcome back. Very much from our halftime break, and hey, we have ourselves one heck of a day here in front of us. It seems to be a bit of a back and forth day in front of us. Not just a 1-1 here between Bliss Marauders and DYS Fracture, but also, hey, guess what? In CGL 2, our EU Diamond Grand Finals also currently 1-1 as they're currently fighting over on Saravasa, trying to decide their third map. But Ray, when we're talking about maps, we're talking about importance. I always like to enunciate personally that I think map 3 is the most important map, because it's either the cap off on a dominant 3-0, or sometimes, if we're talking about a map 5 series, winning the third map guarantees you that ability to pick the map of the bands for that fifth and final map. So a lot of importance going into this one.
Yeah, I always make that point as well. So glad we have the same wavelength when it comes to that. And that map pick has come in from Bliss Marauders, and it was a little perplexing one. I just talked about before the break with Hunter that I don't know if I agree with it fully. We are going to Rialto for this third map, but I've given it a little bit more thought in the 30 seconds as we've gone live. And we did see on Numbani that Diva was banned from DYS Fractured, and Rialto is a much more Diva-centric map than it is a Winston-centric map, and it's already been banned out, so Bliss can play all the Diva they want. So with that being off the table, you know, if you're a Junker Queen player and you play Zarya that we've seen, and, you know, Hazard, I feel like you probably play a lot of off-tank. So my guess is Diva is in that map pool for Kill the Hog.
I mean, I would imagine. I feel like every Hog player has a bit of Diva in them somewhere. Just like every DPS player has a little Zarya and Doomfist in them right here. But either way, we know both of the bands already, and we're just gonna attempt to give it straight to you on this one. It appears it's going to be the Kiriko and the Genji. I mean, Ray, these are characters you would kind of associate with a lot of that dive style. Sometimes Kiriko can, you know, be in the rush as well, and Genji honestly can be, for that matter, as well. But again, no target swords to tanks right here. This means Sojourn, Tracer, and Ashe, actually, for that matter, going to keep having viability. But, I mean, what do you think this means necessarily for the support line? Do you think we're going to go back to the Ana Brig battle, or do you think we'll see something perhaps slightly different?
On a Brig, especially you're playing Diva, it's just a substitution. I think, you know, given that Kiri Kitsune Rush was like the reason why Bliss ended up losing that fifth map, not fifth map, the second map. It might be fresh in their head of trying to get rid of that. Plus, the Kiri was also being a nuisance on cleansing any of the nades that their Ana was able to get. So it's not a big surprise to see that out of the game. And for how good the Genji player Saber was for the side of Bliss Marauders, it's no surprise that Fracture just wants to get that off the plate. So it's likely we're going to see Diva compositions with most likely Ashe and Tracer.
Yeah, I think I very much agree right here. If you had an odds chart for me, I'd put that pretty close to the top. So either way, we're going to have to see. I mean, we definitely have seen both teams have this ability, or maybe sometimes even this desperation, to swap around their characters. I mean, we've seen Symmetras, we've seen Bastions, we've seen Hazards. I mean, we've seen, feels like half the things under the sun already at this point here. But with having this pick, obviously you want to have some plan A going into effect right here, and then obviously plan B, plan C potentially will follow suit. But either way, I'm interested how this is going to go, because I'm pretty sure Bliss Marauders is going to be attacking first on this map right here, which is going to open the door to her. If you wanted to try to run the Hog once and see how far it gets, honestly, that would not surprise me in the absolute slightest.
Yeah, as you mentioned, for DYS Fracture, I think winning this map pick of Bliss Marauders is going to be very important. So if this does go the distance to 5, they will be the ones picking the final map, because as we've already seen, map pick has been extremely important. So I can't wait to get into this map and see how Bliss Marauders are going to perform on this map, given they've been dominant in the brawl, and this is not a brawl map whatsoever. But they did show, you know, on the Winston, they got both the first 2 points very quickly. It was once they got to the third point, it started to stall out a little bit.
Yeah, it really did, and that was the case for both teams at the end of the day. Again, I really spoke on the fact that the only difference between those two teams is the fact that someone happened to push it forward an extra few meters. That's really just the difference between these two teams, and I think we're seeing the struggles between these two teams, because at the end of the day, while we have considered Marauders a super team, there is no such thing as a team that makes no mistakes. That does not exist. I mean, you even look back at the championship clash, there was not a single team that won every single game. Both of the Korean teams ended up losing a game at some point or another, not even just to each other. I mean, the craziest thing in the world, and I'll talk about that a whole different time, because that is a whole different tangent that'll start, trailing off elsewhere. But either way, what we can say is Ravage has come back into the lineup on this one right here, so Crimson going to take a seat. With that being the case right here, I mean, what does this realistically change in the DPS line? Because we saw Crimson playing a lot of that Genji as well, but Ravage, I think, wouldn't shy too far away from it if the opportunity were to come. But
I think Ravage is likely to play the hit scan here, and we'll probably see Witty Weeb go over to the Tracer, who we saw them play that on map number 1. As I say that, we see the exact opposite coming in, as Witty Weeb will go over to the Widow defensively, and Ravage will play the Tracer, showing off the flexibility of all of the DPS in this lineup for DYS Fracture, as they are going to play Winston defensively, which is interesting. Winston's still good on this map. It's just this map tends to be Diva's kingdom, as we see Bliss Marauders lining up on the Diva Kill the Hog in that position, which Diva can be pretty oppressive to Winston, especially being able to apply a lot of pressure and damage with those micro missiles onto the Winston.
Yeah, 100%. Very much a scenario where typically the composition is that, the Diva can counter the Winston, but I think I have some argument that I think you can get away with a lot on the Winston into a Diva as well. It could be a little dependent, obviously, because, nothing stops that primary or even secondary fire from getting through to the supports. But either way, it's only we just have to see it develop right now. But what I'm excited for is Witty versus DJW, and well, I mean, DJW is not excited about it. Clearly, he has already got a win in the Widow v Widow category.
Yeah, as again, DYS Fracture are just playing this really smartly, just playing and giving up a lot of space, but it allows, like Witty Weeb, to have angles to be able to free fire. But the respawns are also really close for Bliss Marauders tier 5, so that pick there's not going to matter that whole much in the long scheme of things.
Yeah, I would agree in that situation right here, and obviously you're hoping to find something more at a DJW here. If you can find an initial headshot, especially if you manage to get onto someone like Ravage, which, pretty close to happening just now. It can really open the door, but the problem is that you're going to have to see pressure being brought to the high ground like this by Kill the Hog, because unfortunately, you can go to the corner, but it's just going to get halted on the corner right away by the Winston.
As you see Kill the Hog taking a lot of entry damage from this Sojourn and the Widow. The double hits get coming in. DJW gets extremely low, has to peek back around the corner.
100%. Multiple shots going right past their head, but again, Witty Weeb coming up on top right here. DYS Fracture doing a great job so far holding this corner, and hey, we talked about on Nubani before how tough it was for both squads to get past this corner, and right now, it seems to still be a bit of the kryptonite here for Marauders.
As we see them on the high ground trying to apply pressure onto Hamburger, but it's just not happening. Overclock now coming online and looking to find some picks, but there's not a whole lot available in sight.
Yeah, and Saber's super close to going down, unfortunately. Didn't quite happen, and now this is the door that needs to open up for them to be able to push through this corner right now. As Nano is online, gonna give it over to the Winston right here. Needs to try to dive in, hoping to maybe Kill the Hog out of the mech and force a bomb here, but unfortunately not gonna happen. It's the Nano's force instead, and now an immediate bounce back right here, trying to find something, knock away Kill the Hog right now. He's sitting super duper low right now, gonna have to use the bomb right now. Is I would try to run away, but instead an investment to try to stop the remake does not come to fruition.
But DJW has been found on the Chaser by Witty Weeb. As a lot of space has been found, but Ravage has been respawned.
Yeah, now things start to become dangerous as DYS Fracture falling apart at the seams. It's only Leaky that can really do a whole lot here, as unfortunately, Witty Weeb, you're gonna get taken out here, aren't you, bud? Unfortunate situation, but does not mean the fight's over yet. Leaky very much gonna be very happy to go ahead and invest here with the rally right here, but Saber doing a great job hitting on the sidelines, creating a bunch of pressure that honestly you really can't do a whole lot about if you're the squad right here. But apparently Ascend says, yes, I can take care of it. I'm just that goated. But either way, Hamburger, unfortunately, in a situation where they might fall over any second here, and it leaves Leaky to have to be the tank. But after being knitted like that, I think it'll slowly but surely start falling apart at the seams. I mean, at the end of the day, they just don't want to give it up. You've got to appreciate just how hard these guys are working, but eventually the numbers game is going to play a factor.
Yes, it's just 2 players left on the point, just the Sojourn and the Ana. They finally go down despite Witty Weeb and Ravage finding 2 picks. Bliss Marauders able to cap the first point. You know, very interesting fact, Hunter. The last 2 games I've casted on Rialto, both ended up being first point holds and then fuller holds. So I actually have not casted second point Rialto in a very long time.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those situations where sometimes it's kind of hard. You know, it's like when you're practicing in a scrimmage sometimes. You know, sometimes you don't even get to play the second or third points of some maps. So we kind of see teams act a little differently when you get to these points. As Leaky just pretty much gets deleted on the spot. Nano gonna be invested by Ascend here. I don't know how much this is realistically going to find as Saber just decides to go for a swim. I don't know what the idea quite was, but the fight still continues on in the 4v4. And at the very least, it gives more of a bound for Fracture to hold on to this underpass.
They said it's hot in these streets of Italy. I needed to cool off a little bit. As Witty Weeb now going to find Milo as well. That's going to stop any kind of forward progress that Bliss is going to make. It is back to the spawn room you go. As I say that, but Hamburger's down.
Yeah, it leaves a bit of an unfortunate situation right now as Nano can be thrown on Kill the Hog as well. Perhaps a little bit of overkill into this one right here as Ravage hoping to maybe at least take somebody down with them right here. Unfortunately, it's not going to happen, but at the very least, even with these late kills right here, if Leaking can at least live, it means a recontestation is going to happen. And I think even with Hamburger, I think you recontest still. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to commit the primal here, so you have to win this fight here. This is gonna be absolutely devastation if you don't end up getting this.
Yeah, because you're probably about to invest momentarily with the rally as well, and that will come to fruition. And now we're going to see how much Marauders is willing to invest here. They have literally everything at their disposal right now. Rally is doing their best to be able to. Here comes the Nano right now, and things are beginning to fall apart at the end of the day. So, I mean, while it is devastating to lose that fight, the silver lining is you do take the 2-for-2 ult trade right here, and you get rid of the Nano and the Sojourn ult, which debatably between the 5 might be 2 of the most important. Oh my god.
The Hamburger swapping over to the D.Va now. The Pulse Bomb finds the Ana, so it's just going to be that much longer before you get any kind of recontest coming out from DYS Fractured. But I don't know. I'm not a bit, I mean, I don't know if I like the 2v2 trade. I feel like, you know, especially since you didn't cap the second point, you know, maybe it would have been better to keep that and just have more tools at your disposal. But this third point is now Hamburger does commit to the Zarya. Great counter for the D.Va. And this is where also the D.Va starts to lose a bit of its value because it's more ground and pound for the third point.
Yeah, that unfortunately that fight probably couldn't have gone much worse. And now your stall members aren't even existing anymore. And now I think you don't get anything out of this. You got the Nano there, but unfortunately they're just not even going to touch. That is a devastating way for that map to end right there. But does mean that you managed to finish the map. You do with quite a bit of time on there as well. So that's about 1:40. That's going to be on the clock for them. So now if you want to be able to, you know, give yourself the advantage, give yourself a chance to win this map, DYS Fracture does have to push it all the way.
This is where things are going to get interesting. The D.Va matchup into the Winston, and you know, I'm not going to count the Zarya on that one yet because it didn't really get a chance to show off its ability to counter the D.Va, just because the ultimates and the momentum was just downpouring on the side of DYS Fracture. But we did see the D.Va had a very good matchup into the Winston, as we talked about. So we're going to see on this defense, once again, Bliss Marauders keeping that theme, keeping the D.Va. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And they're going to keep the Sojourn Tracer. They're not going to play Widow on this defense. For DYS, it looks like they are now going to have Hamburger go over and match the D.Va. With this first point, it's kind of hard to play Zarya. The high ground, being able to contest and get the enemy off of it is just too important.
Yeah, I think I 100% agree in this situation right here. So, just curiosity of how exactly they want to try and start the fight, because the one struggle I think you really had, again, if you are Bliss Marauders, was that initial corner right here. So if both teams are kind of playing the same way generally in terms of, you know, how well they can officially break through corners, I think it's extremely important for DYS to have themselves a quick first fight here. And on top of that being a quick first point right here, because the time factor doesn't mean the most in the world. You get another shot whether you cap with no time, whether you cap with 3 minutes. It doesn't quite matter. You just have to get there as, oh, hey, DJW is just here to say hello and say goodbye.
Great opening pick. Tracer, back to the spawn room you go. DJ, you tried, but Witty Weeb was ready and just more witty than you.
Yeah, you saw right there trying to trying to find something right there for Woody Weep right now, as DM going to do a great job keeping the DPS alive right now. Saber able to simply slide out right now, and eventually there has to be some pressure onto this backline right here because Kill the Hog is taking damage, but Kill the Hog is never going to fall in that situation. It's just simply not going to happen. As Saber goes down, means the opening is going further and further, but Kill the Hog is literally just simply stopping, as right now Hamburg is eventually going to force them to have to go back and protect the backline, which means progress can be gained further and further. This is exactly the start you want if you're a Fractured fan.
And this final corner around is going to be that much harder to get. The sleep comes in, and all the damage is unleashed as the D-Mech is forced.
Yeah, now this fight isn't necessarily unwinnable, but I think with the remake right there, the possibility has finally gone away at this point, and everyone's going to try to reset, and I think maybe Hamburger might just want to take the death, quite honestly. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Still 2.5 minutes left on the clock. You're going to have a remake of your own and a rally. Bliss Marauders are nowhere close to that, so you have to rely pretty heavily on DJW coming through with a pulse and, you know, matching the nano. So a lot's going to be on the back of DJW in this next fight.
It really is in this situation right here. The bright side is still a rather fair amount of time, 2 minutes on the board, essentially one fight territory as well, but you have to deal with the nano from Pig Whips right here, which obviously is, I imagine, just going to go over on to Kill the Hog, but Kill the Hog doesn't even need the nano to get away with this a level of effectiveness right here. It feels like people are just dying unnecessarily as Saber gets a 3-key to finish it, and I imagine it might be a 4th one here momentarily. Oh no.
At least there is the ability to go jump in the water, so you force the kill there onto Hamburger. But again, DYS Fracture just allowing Saber to be on that high ground and get away with absolutely everything. But that's a great sleep, but you can't let Saber get out there. That is not good.
Yeah, to be fair, the fact that the DM was there did kind of negate the ability, because I think without that DM, 100% Saber is dead, and now Nano going to be going to be going over to the high ground, going to try to throw every bit of pressure into the world right here, but Nano still being held onto by Pig Whips, thinking they can kind of sustain through it for the time being, and that genuinely does seem to be the case right here, as Nano will eventually be given right now. Lots of the DM has already been used, as pressure being finally delivered onto the high ground without a D.Va in the presence, but it's still not quite doing enough, as Hamburger is going to potentially have to use the bomb here momentarily right here, as DJW finally surrounded, finally taken care of right now. Woody Weeb moving forward like they had a pulse bomb in hand. Unfortunately, they do not, as bomb getting let loose, and unfortunately for Hamburger, that means they are going to fall very far down right now, as the fight not quite over yet, but the investment being given full time by both squads right now. Woody Weeb keeping themselves in this along with Ravage right now, but unfortunately, I think the nervous game is eventually coming to effect right now. Unfortunately, big investment for naught.
Yeah, especially getting the Ana there. I mean, you still have Ravage, who's over here and finds Saber, as, you know, they're, you know, creeping around in the back line, but Bliss cannot afford to send anyone because the numbers are pretty much even in players coming back for DYS.
Yeah, this stick could end things right here potentially. We are going to see the shield come through right now, and it seems to be in the favor right now, as eventually things might be coming into fruition. Ravage sitting super low, but might not matter a whole lot right here, as we are getting thrown into the Beyond realm, ladies and gentlemen, as first point has been captured. 2.5 minutes on the clock. It's definitely much less than Marauders had on their initial attack, but it gives you another opportunity.
All DYS has to do is just keep, you know, all they gotta do is finish it. Doesn't matter with time on escort, they're gonna be able to go once again. The question is just, is this enough time? I mean, there's a reason why the corner they're coming up on is called the corner of death. Like, there is a reason this defensive hold can become very strong if you allow teams to set up.
Yeah, and this is why Hamburger is playing up so aggressively right here, because you don't want to give them the opportunity to even push out at this mixture right now. But unfortunately for Kill the Hog, might be biting off a little more than they can chew. Eventually, DM does come back and they get a little bit of care. But with DJW going down, the door opens back up once more, and Saber might be forced to have to use the overclock here to make something happen right here. You see them chasing the fly on the wall. That is named Woody Weeb. And I mean, just doing a fantastic job of drawing attention and forcing people in places.
Oh, big anti-nade coming in. Can they capitalize? It doesn't look like, especially with the rally online, it was smart to not do that.
Yeah, bomb going to be activated as well. Remake takes care of Pigman's nearly got Saber as well. And that might be a devastating one. Kill the Hog has been taken care of. they're going to not use the bomb here. That means they are simply going to say, hey, we know we're not winning this fight. We're going to hold on to this ultimate because we think it's going to be much more worth it in one of these next fights.
I think that was smart, and that was the difference between the attack for DYS versus Bliss. DYS used their ultimates on their defense to try and contest the point, and then I feel like it ended up snowballing in his third point. So I think this gives Bliss Marauders a chance to continue to defend and possibly still win this map.
Yeah, 100%. But it comes down to that third point. And while we have seen the streak being broken here by Bliss Marauders of being able to finish the map, we haven't seen it quite yet for DYS. Fracture in the situation as a pulse bomb going to go to the side, and it's not going to quite get what you want right now as we see a big investment out the gate here. The total of 3 ultimates already used in this fight right now as Bliss Marauders are going to fight back. Only need 1 to do the job right here as bomb is going to be invested in this scenario right here, and Hamburger is just the help kept in place, and it's just going to get deleted, but very luckily at the very least gets quilled mercifully quickly.
Still plenty of time on the clock. You're going to at least get 2 to 3 more fights. You're going to have a remake this fight, but that's really all you're looking at. But the only ult on the side of Bliss is a pulse, and they might get a nano as well. I think that I'd be looking to try and dry fight as much as possible this next fight if I'm DYS, and try and get out the pulse and the nano in this next fight.
Yeah, 100%. And now for DJW, it could be as simple as hitting this pulse onto the Brig or the Ana to be able to simply stop this fight from ever happening, which honestly, in this case, is going to play to their favor because right now you're fine having this low ult economy. Like, you wouldn't complain about that fact whatsoever, but Saber is being hit by all sides right now, eventually be forced to back up right here. Woody Weave trying to build up towards this ult as well. That pulse bomb could be very important as a sign of getting forced away. Leaky having to help out right now. His bomb has to be used, unfortunately. No one will get taken out by that, which means I'm beginning to think this is the fight where you start to play long-term and try to invest for a final fight.
Yeah, you did get out the nano and the pulse there, but you are facing down a overclock as Ravage gets nanoed in very low.
Yeah, but Kill the Hog has to use the bomb right here, and hopefully nobody gets caught out here right now. But unfortunately, Ravage does. Ravage was getting closer and closer to that overclock, which means everyone on Fracture might have to consider backing out if they can. But unfortunately, things might be going down the drain right now. The investment with the Pulse Bomb is possible. It's going to try to find something, but it will not at the end of the day. And you see Saber now trying to drill into Ascend with that nano on them as well. But unfortunately, it's falling apart at the seams, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, they're going to fall just short of finishing the map, and it's not going to cost them a point last time, but it will this time as Bliss Marauders going to take it over to match point. We'll get advantage for a potential map 5 and Fracture struggling to figure it out at the end.
What a map as Bliss Marauders map pick comes through when it matters, and the Diva... This is what I theorized. I was like, okay, you know, initially during the break when we were talking, we were both not liking this map pick. But again, I thought about it and I'm like, well, Diva was banned on Numbani. Feels like DYS Fractured maybe might have banned that for a reason. And I think we're seeing that come through as the Diva composition looked absolutely superb for the side of Bliss Marauders.
Yeah, I think it looked fantastic. I think they have kind of kept getting better and better as the series has gone forward. Obviously, the unfortunate situation on Numbani disregarded for the time being. You have the advantage. You have yourself in a great situation right here. And now it's about being able to respond one more time here to whatever DYS Fracture wants to throw your way. Because now, once again, the pick is back in their own control here. I think there are still maps like Numbani that you could potentially throw out there, but Ray, is there...
I was gonna say, correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, I know they could take us wherever, but I believe they have to do all the 5 map types first, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, all we have left is Flashpoint, which both those are extremely brawl centric, which you think favor Bliss Marauders, and then you have
Push.
Why am I forgetting? Push. So it's like, I mean, maybe you bring it to like as you know, maybe you bring us to Esperanza, where it's more going to be Winston compositions. Like, I feel like the last 2 maps are not going to favor the map pool as much or the hero pool, at least being able to bring us to a map where it's specifically dive.
Yeah, that's why I think personally it has to be Esperanza. That's my thought process here. Because the other mindset, though, is a risky mindset that I have seen a team use before, and while it didn't work, it is an option. The option is to try to get the more difficult one out of the way first, and that difficult one, it would be Flashpoint. because you already are going to go. You could go and take what is the easy pick here, Esperanza. Take that, go into map 5 where, you know, that pick is going to be out of your hands entirely. And if you go to something like a New Junk City, is going to be Rush, it is going to be Brawl. Nothing changes that. You could go to Cerveza and you could still force a dive. You could go on Esperanza, on almost any push map, and you could force a dive. But in this situation right here, it appears they're kind of doing a bit of a middle ground here. I don't think it's the worst pick. I don't think it's quite the best pick, but at the very least, it's not Flashpoint. It is going to be pushed for our 4th map. It's going to be New Queen Street, which I think opens up for a large variety of comps here, because I don't think there are many things you could pick that would be considered wrong on this map.
Yeah, I mean, Wrecking Ball obviously is like the composition you think of a lot when it came to Koreans playing on this map. But we've also seen in the past Doomfist be extremely viable, and Brawl compositions like Ramatra and other things are still going to be good. So that'll be very curious. Like I said, I definitely think it's a middle ground here. And before we dive a little bit more into this, just to keep you guys updated, if you guys don't have dual monitors, the Diamond Grand Finals match currently is 2-1 in favor of EMC, which is crazy because EMC is coming from the lower bracket, and Kira in the winners finals beat them 3-0. So EMC trying to pull off a little bit of an upset here.
Yeah, definitely gonna see if that's gonna be the case. EMC is kind of trying to put themselves on top right now. I mean, we have an EMC in this grand finals right here. We have an EMC waiting in the grand finals of what we're doing right here. I mean, the winner of this is the one that's gonna be able to compete for the other spot to go up against Kanidos. So EMC stocks beginning to rise up further and further on top of that, and of course, that VA cat play game very much already done and over with. And then, hey, if you want to watch some action tonight, Lunar Eclipse Death Blossom should be a fantastic one down in the NA Diamond tier, I believe. And that'll be a great matchup. I think these are two fantastic teams. Death Blossom entirely underrated compared to the top two. So I'm extremely excited to watch that later tonight.
And just to give you guys a little bit more of an update, there's also more than just that game for NA tonight. There is Death Blossom versus Lunar Eclipse, but there's also Solar Eclipse going up against Cuddle Puddle, as well as later that night at 10 p.m. Eastern, we have EIG Reapers in the Masters Division going up against Shu Bill Nation. So another 3 games tonight for NA to match the 3 games we did today for EU. Very exciting as the playoffs are coming to a conclusion, and we got 2 weeks left of playoffs, folks. 2 weeks.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, obviously, we're already crowning a champion as we speak right now, but already give me crowning a lot more next weekend as well. And even so, the weekend after that. But either way, got to figure that out. We got to figure out that essentially right now of who that opponent could potentially even be for the grand final here. So either way, we get back into the ban phase where DYS Fracture has already targeted a character from each category. In fact, both teams have already done so. And in this situation right here, if you're Fracture, what is it you're most afraid of running into in this situation right here?
I mean, it's hard to say because we talked about how a map like this can open up the possibility of a bunch of different kinds of compositions. You know, I don't know, because like we've seen so much flexibility out of Bliss, as well as the Hazard is what's going to get banned. It kind of makes sense. Hazard pretty strong on this map. The assassination combo, you know, think back to City Center from Samoa.
Yep. And now it's a debate of what you want to get rid of here in this situation. On a break still hasn't been touched. I don't know if you do touch it this map. Because if we go to map 5, I mean, I think the door opens back up for on a break, so I think I might potentially want to save it for that situation right there. But if you wanted to force some uncomfortability, you could get rid of like the Lucio in the situation. You can't get rid of the Kiriko, but instead it's going to be the Sojourn, which I think is a little bit wild because I think both sides have been playing an excellent Sojourn. So this one is, I don't know if I would call it bad, but it is definitely a double-edged sword in my opinion.
I think it's going to depend what compositions these teams want to play. It's going to make things that much more interesting, as Bliss Marauders on match point DYS Fracture have to win the next 2 maps, or they are unfortunately going home, as we see the series of picks or bans from these teams as it's gone on. But yeah, as you mentioned, both teams have had fantastic sojourns. So do we see Ashes coming into play, or do Bliss Marauders, you know, take a page from their where they wanted to play Tracer Genji? I'm not exactly sure where they're going to go, but we just know No more headshots from those Sojourns.
100%. And I think this will come down to how fast you want to play here, because even though it is push, you aren't forced to play fast on a map like this. If you wanted to poke it out with something like the Ash, I think that is 100% still an option. If you wanted to go fast and go back to something like the Tracer or the Genji, again, I think that is extremely viable in the situation right here. I think the question is the tank game right here, because we talked about the Doomfist, talked about the ball that could potentially come out. And we've definitely seen the flexibility from both these tanks here, but for some reason, it would not surprise me if we went back to the double diva situation, at least maybe one diva. I'm just really curious what Fracture has in mind for this map, because I don't think you go to a map like this without having a good plan A coming into it. Ooh, I like this.
As we load into here, we got Fracture loading up on a Ramatra comps, which is interesting because they banned it on map number 1. So looks like they are wanting to play this game against Bliss, as Bliss is going to play the, very similar to what they were playing on Rialto, except they're going to do Lucio Kiri, and they are going to go full in onto the Tracer Genji.
Yeah, definitely going to be a couple of different styles of compositions, but one thing that can be said about this is both ideally want to try and play fast. And it's going to be difficult right here, but the thing with the Ramatra going to the Diva cannot DM those punches. No, sir, you cannot stop that from coming through. So if you end up in an unfortunate situation, it's not going to have the same effect where if you have something like the Orisa that can push them away. It's a scenario where you still have to play this correctly if you're Hamburger. You can't just simply hit W key and it's going to work out every time. You have to be precise. You have to move as a unit.
As you see already ravaged down. That's the one thing I was worried about with this Diva is, yes, I like the ability of the Hinder for the Cassidy, but Diva could just DM it and eat it and not have to worry about it, and they put all the pressure on him and they're able to win that fight very quickly.
I am restored.
I think we might have lost Hunter here, but we see immediately DYS Fracture is going to go over to the Zarya. We didn't get to see it play out fully on Rialto, the great counter it can be to the Diva. So I'm very curious to watch this play out in full as Ultra Rays start to come around, but it doesn't matter as Milo sent back to the spawn room by the Cassidy, and now we're seeing by the Kiri, but the Cassidy is throwing down a lot of damage.
Yeah, 100% as things start going the other way now, as DYS Fracture will be able to get some advantage to them here, at least some progress, as Kill the Hog more than happy to simply match Zarya and say, all right, whatever you can do, I can try and do better.
DJW and Saber will have both their Pulse Bomb and their Blade, as well as a Kitsune Rush from their side as well. So this is where things get dangerous for DYS Fracture, as, again, for them, it's just getting as much distance as possible at this point.
Yeah, trying to get as much charge as possible as well between both of these areas right here. Still having a bubble of peace, but one sitting at 60%, the other likely to sit around the same right now, as getting deleted off the face of the earth, and it's going to bring a lot of danger, because I think this might end up being a potential full wipe situation here, as they'll be more than happy to back out, take care of Woody Weep, as Leaky, unfortunately, while the beat is online, that is not going to service you at all here.
As is all about you getting out without getting staggered. Because, at this moment, the cart, was not in control of Bliss either. So they're going to be able to take another fight here before the first cap comes in. Bliss Marauders still have a lot to work with, however.
Yeah, right here, Blade's going to come online, go with the aggression. Beacon deactivated, though, as DYS Fracture still in a very winnable scenario here. Going to try to hack and slash away at the Zarya, who's sitting super low right now. No more beat to be able to save Kill the Hog. And now the investment works at the end of the day. You may have had to use 3 ults to do it, but when you're in a checkpoint fight like that, I think it's super imperative that you have to win.
I agree. Bliss Marauders can still come back with both of their DPS ultimates, but this Zarya ult that's coming online for Hamburger, you get these DPS in it, then it can just cancel any value they have. And then also you can buy a lot of space with the high noon that Ravage is going to have. Is now they take the lead, so DYS are getting ready to round the corner and look to cap this first point.
I don't hate that at all. Again, the double investment, you get the checkpoint on top of it, they go for the touch, and it doesn't happen. This means with these picks, you're getting probably about 70 meters at the minimum. You are more likely to lose this fight now, but now you have the checkpoint. And I think that's, again, extremely important to have in this situation.
Yeah, so for the side of Bliss, winning this next fight with as little ult investment as possible is going to be key because the forward spawns are now unlocked. You're going to have to win 2 fights in a row.
Yeah, and it could be as simple as simply getting the grab and getting the blade on it, but on top, unfortunately, they're gonna best after the fight is potentially almost over, but DJW and Saber don't want to give up on the fight just yet, but unfortunately, it's gonna be really hard to capture a Lucio, and for Saber, unfortunately, Zarya is the last thing they want to run into in this situation right here, as more progress being built up by DYS Fracture, and Marauders starting to struggle a little bit here.
Yeah, in the meantime, Witty Weave's getting close to a blade of their own, but this Kitsune Rush should be all they need to be able to wrap it up. They don't even need it. Witty Weave going down should be all they need.
Yeah, you saw right now, Kill the Hog went down a little bit, potentially thought about the grab, but realized it is not the right call right here, and at the end of the day, it is 100% the right call. You know what this means? A bunch of late deaths, and those close spawns are going to be next to nothing now. Unless they get it? Maybe? No, they will not.
No, so this is huge for the side of Bliss. They won't be able to re-engage as fast. As going to put the pressure and possibly give them a chance to get this forward spot. It's probably not going to happen. You're going to be forced to probably use your Kitsune Rush and possibly your grab to be able to ensure this, but getting these forward spawns right now is of the most importance.
Yeah, your elephant's very much on the board as well for Marauders right here. It could be a worst case scenario, but Blade is going to be used, and it's going to be the deflection thrown in, everything. In fact, it gets the pulse bomb back from DJW away right now. Kill the Hog gets deleted right now. It's not quite over yet with Ascend being super low, but unfortunately for that squad, Witty Weave more than happy to try to slice and dice things away right here. Ravage nearly finds a pick and a stagger at the end, and in fact, we'll still get it.
Incredibles, we see Saber trying to apply pressure on a Ravage as well. It's going to force him to back up a little bit and get the healing. As players for Bliss Marauders are looking to come back. A Blade still online, but a Kitsune Rush and a High Noon and a grab online. This is looking rough.
Yeah, and now Kill the Hog is literally in the most helpless spot possible. Doesn't really have any help to really do anything for them here. And now we're going to get to the 100-meter mark and potentially beyond that right now, as a grab only really has a beat to be able to respond to it.
As this is starting to get more and more dangerous for the side of Bliss Marauders, we're going to see a swap over to the Ramattra composition as they are just not liking their matchup into the Zarya. Grab comes out, forces beat, and the Blade comes out from Saber, finds 2.
Yeah, and this does mean this fight is essentially over with right now, but you forced the swap. You forced both of the ultimates that were remaining for Bliss Marauders, and that means the ult economy hits a giant reset button. Nobody is above that 50% marker currently, as, hey, I mean, to be fair, if you're DYS Fracture, you are perfectly okay with this situation.
As the Ramattra mirror is now going to come out. But again, it's not like DYS Fracture has any ultimates either, so I think Bliss Marauders is totally okay with these exchanges in the hero pools.
Ooh, yeah, unfortunately, hit the hat trick at Pits right there, as DJW already got rid of 2, and that's going to be a quick one right here, which means that's going to be a fight win, but I think more importantly, way more
Point cap.
importantly, actually, yeah, there's no question, they got it.
Yeah, so that opens the window of them being able to come back here. If they weren't able to get this point cap in this fight, it would have been looking really rough. DJW will have a High Noon. Kill the Hog will have the Annihilation window available for the Baptiste. This is looking like, you know, you can definitely gain some momentum back if you're Bliss Marauders.
Yeah, you see right now Witty Weave getting up close to this and unfortunately gets stunned and caught out. That is worst case scenario, but Ravage does have the ability to use this Deadeye. Will 100% take the opportunity right now. A bunch of bodies waiting in wake, and unfortunately for Kill the Hog, infested in the Annihilation right here. It's sitting super low as well. Will have to reuse their own Nemesis form as well just to be able to stay in the game right here. And now it's the question of whether or not the Pig wants to be able to use the ult here. And in fact, they're throwing everything into this fight right here. But Witty Weave is going to have a free blade at this point. Saber might as well. It's just trading back and forth, but Hamburger has gone down first and foremost here, which means it's tank versus no tank right here. And the investment is being given away right now. Is trying to hack and slash away, but unfortunately is going to find absolutely no receipts. And finally, Bliss Marauders get something further here, an important fight win they desperately needed.
And they were able to hold on to their blade as well. I mean, you're going to have to be going into an Annihilation, so that's definitely not ideal. Witty Weave going to swap over to the Tracer now. But this blade has to go sicko mode for Saber. Just over a minute left on the clock. And they got about, you know, 30-something meters still to go.
Yeah, and you want to take this fight as quick as possible as well to try to give yourself as much room, where if things do go wrong, you do have a potential out right now, as you're going to see Ascendus is pretty much just getting ran on every time Hamburger is thinking about popping the Nemesis form, and in fact, they are going to 100% right here, but this is more of a defensive maneuver right here. This is simply to survive momentarily, and now this opens up the door for Saber to simply have nothing to stop them with this blade coming up here right now. Ravage has a lot of bodies on display, though, ends up getting one with both of the supports following suit right here. And things are going to be devastating from here, because this means Marauders are maybe one fight away from taking these away, and now you're looking at 2 at the very minimum.
Yeah, for the side of Bliss Marauders, you are going to have to win at this point with 30 seconds left. You have to win probably 2 fights for sure, but it's likely to be 3 that you're going to have to win in a row. You will have overtime spawns in your favor, but you've already lost one, but you do get the Kyrian response. It's actually a big exchange.
Yeah, this could be devastating. It's thrown into the wall. It causes momentary separation. In fact, Witty probably took more damage from that pulse bomb than anybody else on the enemy squad did, but things are still back and forth. DJW sitting literally on 1 sliver of HP right now, but will be able to start naturally regenerating. And honestly, if you're Fracture, you back out, you play for the double support ultimates.
Gonna agree, you have the forward spawns anyway, so it's not gonna matter a whole lot, Witty Weeb. Gotta be careful there, buddy. Cassidy is not an easy 1v1 to take.
And in the slightest right here, and now it is back to a 2-fight race here. As Witty Weeb, honestly, I don't think you need to be this far back. I want to be quite honest. I think you might want to get there ASAP right here. Is the investment into the backline right here. Throws it way into the beyond realm momentarily there right now. But either way, beat has been used. Leaky was more than happy to respond right now to City Rush right now. Pay the Whip is going to have to invest here momentarily, and they can try their hardest right here as it's coming onto the back of Saber to try to make something happen. They've got rid of 2 right now, but the numbers game is going to start playing its factor before long. Right now, Saber hopelessly outmatched in this situation right here, but the fight is very much still alive as checkpoint is still activated, as it is simply a 2v2 at this point, right? Both sports doing their darndest to try to hold on to their position, but Annihilation could be what stands between them and a map 5 right here, but the punches have to hit eventually. Someone has to break, fall over, and at the end of the day, this Deadeye going to get rid of the ball. Ladies and gentlemen, who could have seen it coming? We will go to a map 5 to decide who's going to move on and who is going home.
Woo-wee, baby. Crazy matchup between both of these teams, as DYS Fractured able to force the map number 5. And we do know the map type that will be the 5th map. It is all going to come down to Flashpoint. So we're either going to Saravasa or New Junk City to end it all. I'm excited, but we talked about how we think it's definitely going to favor Bliss a little bit more. But I mean, DYS looking pretty comfortable in the Zarya. And I think, you know, both maps, I think Zarya is better on New Junk City. So if I was Bliss, I would definitely be taking us to Saravasa.
Yeah, I kind of agree in that scenario right there. And then you have to take into consideration what the ban might be as well, because you might decide you want to go in one particular route, but the problem, actually, it's actually not really a problem. I believe, wasn't it DYS Fracture that got rid of the Ramatra initially? Is that correct?
Yeah, it was.
So then Bliss Marauders, after going into the Ramatra duel and losing, I mean, that's a potential option. It would protect the Zarya full on. I mean, you would think it might be the secure pick, but you know the bright side of that is they get a few minutes to think about that, right? Because we're going to take this to one final break, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, the definitive conclusion of this matchup, Map 5, will be coming your way right after this break.
Carpe diem. Carpe diem.
Ladies and gentlemen, it would not be a CGL playoff without a close one here before us. It's going to be a map 5 to decide who will be the first person taken out here in the EU GM tier and who is going to move on to that loser's final matchup to be able to compete for that second and final spot in the grand finals. I mean, Ray, when we get these kind of matches during the regular season, even the mid-season championship, we still think very highly of it. But when it's a situation like this, when it is very much go big or go home, these next few minutes that these players are going to spend are the most important that they have experienced throughout the entirety of their seasons.
Yeah, as both teams, Bliss Marauders facing a lot of pressure, could be upset twice in a row, and the 8-0 season they had could come to an end after double losses in the first 2 rounds of this bracket, while DYS hoping to pull the biggest upset. They were playing with house money, so I feel like they're playing with the wind beneath their back as Bliss Marauders got the pressure on theirs, and it's all going to come down to Flashpoint. And we do have that map pick, I believe, coming in from Bliss Marauders. And we are headed to New Junk City. A little bit shocking considering it's a big time Zarya map, if that's the direction that DYS want to go. But we still have the ban and pick phase to go through, so not exactly sure what these teams ended up banning.
Yeah, I'm curious of that as well. I mean, this is very much a situation where, you know, it's Flashpoint. It's pretty much a 50-50 coin toss as to where you'd like to go here. But we talked about it briefly before we went to break, and that I think this ban is likely going to target the tank category here. I think if you want to play a particular way with the Zarya, you get rid of the Ramatra. I think if that is your idea, I think it should be as simple as that. Is it going to be that simple? Obviously not. May gets taken care of here, protects the DPS category, and DYS Fracture going to ban away the Orisa, which for me, I wish I knew what this screams, but I genuinely couldn't tell you. Maybe it's to stop one of the deterrents of a Ramatra or a Mauga. I guess that's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, they can't ban the Ramatra. They already did. But, I mean, they also did, you know, kind of win in the Ramatra mirror a little bit. So I think they're comfortable taking that if they need to. The May is another interesting one from Bliss. I mean, May's, you know, the stocks for May are continuing to rise. And May goes very well with the Brawl composition. So we also did see at one point that Bliss Marauders did like playing the Junker Queen. But that's just only going to basically, if you play the Junker Queen, you're only asking DYS to swap over to the Zarya. So it's a lot of mind games to be played in what compositions you come out on initially.
Yeah, and of course, taking about the look of all the bans that have taken place in this situation right here. I mean, compared to what has been taken out, I don't really think I regret anything that got taken off the table that maybe you think would have been more effective here. I think throughout everything, the bans have at least made some level of sense as to where they were and to thinking about the future of where you're going to end up being. Because you could argue like, oh, you know, what if you save that Ramatra ban for map 5? Maybe it's a different situation. But I think in this scenario right here, it's just hard to really give any focus to that. You just have to give your all to the next 10 minutes here before us and hoping that you can edge it out, because Flashpoint is one of those maps that can fly by extremely quickly if things go wrong.
Could not agree with you more. As this is it, folks. One team will be moving on to the losers finals. The other will be going home. Lineups will be staying the same for this final map, as the series and the pressure is mounting for both sides. Will DYS pull off the upset, or will Bliss Marauders show us why they are 8-0 number 1 seed in this bracket?
Yeah, 100%. All the pressure is weighing on them right here. And even so, they've clearly proven, unfortunately, over the course of the last few days, that they are vulnerable to losing matches, to kind of having these moments of doubting themselves and having to kind of regroup and restructure and try to fight back. And they've proven they can fight back from that level of adversity in the situation right here, as we do see, I think, what we expected with the bans that are here right now. Ramatra versus Mauga. The question is, how long is that going to stay? And if they get pressured off, will they have the right counter in mind?
I think a lot of this is, at least for DYS, if you're going up against a Juno Kiri, you're going to need Witty Weeb to be on that backline, putting pressure onto the Kiri Juno. You know, because the Kiri can get away, but there's not a whole lot that Juno's going to be able to do. But TJW is going to play the junk, which is going to be a lot of damage that you can throw onto this Ramatra. So I think that's kind of the idea of why they're playing the junk.
I mean, I don't hate it. It's spam. I think on this first point, it is the best. I think after this, I think you pretty much throw it down the drain. That's my honest opinion. But, you know, if it works, it works. It's as simple as that in the game of Overwatch right here. But unfortunately, what's not going to work is being sent back into the spawn room right here. So for Marauders, not the ideal situation to get things going right here. Going to eventually force everybody to get out. A nice cleanse, which will save their lives in that moment, but they will have to surrender the point for the moment being.
I do not know what Bliss Marauders are thinking. You're playing Mauga. You need to, your ground dive composition. Get in there and get on top of people. You can't just sit there and poke and hope you're going to win this battle, because you are not.
Yeah, you just aren't right here. I mean, to be fair, also entering a spam battle in a close area is going to be really tough, and that's why you kind of see them simply just trying to slowly rotate around right here and make sure DJW isn't going to be a consistent threat in this situation right here, as you can already see them just literally walking behind, nearly assassinating, but again, is taking a very, very difficult approach here right here, as they're going to be able to survive momentarily, but unfortunately, They will eventually be taken out once more as Marauders have a plan here, and I think for DJW, honestly, would not be surprised if they just tried to go off of this immediately. Like, honestly.
Yeah, I'm not liking this at all. I don't like the Mauga or the Junker. Yeah, okay, we're gonna see the swap over to the Tracer, but actually the Cassidy, which I think is gonna deter Witty Weeb, which is nice. But their Mauga's got to get in there and get something done.
Yeah, they have to here, and of course, overtime needs to be triggered, and 100% will be right there with the point being given a lot of pressure. In fact, a chance it flips over for free right now. Pulse Bomb is ready as Ravage will go down first, so DJW already finding success right now. If I'm Witty Weeb, I'm just already not even using this right here as Kitsune Rush has been activated. As Stick goes through right now, Kitsune Rush is there, but a cleanse will not, and this opens back up the door right here. Hamburger is considered going in, and 100% is going to invest in the situation right here, but it's the same thing with Millowers, who's more than happy to dump him with the investment here, and if I'm Ravage, if I'm coming back into the fight, I am holding this all, because honestly, I don't know how I feel about this, and they're still investing in this fight. The cage fight has now gone through, and while this inevitably will be a loss here, you pretty much had what is essentially going to be a 4-for-3 trade, so if you're Bliss Marauders, you got to be satisfied enough.
Yeah, because you'll have both your DPS ultimates going up against the overclock for DYS Fracture. So again, you're gonna have to win 2 more fights in a row if you are the side of Bliss. So being able to win like an exchange of overclocks here would go a long way.
I think 100% it would be in the situation right here, and Ravage is going to go and pretty much immediately going to get stomped, but does have a cleanse immediately afterwards right here, is pressing into bodies right now, but someone still has to be found because inevitably this has to come onto the back of one of those pigs, but unfortunately Kill the Hog dropping is the absolute worst thing that could have possibly happened here, and now it's all falling apart here on this first round as DYS Fracture, a couple of frag kills at the end, will be able to take our central point to get things started away, and the question is, where are we headed next?
I'm sorry, Bliss Marauders, I don't know what they're thinking, Hunter. It's like, you had the ult advantage. Why are you just letting Ravage press Q and eliminating your team without even matching it and trying to put the pressure back on them? I do not understand that at all.
I agree with you in this situation right here. I think the Junkrat pick was wrong in the very beginning. I think maybe if they would have stayed, or more so not stayed, but went with the Cassidy to begin with, we could look at a different round 1, but now they're going to speed in with the Deadeye right here. Need to find at least 1 body to make this worthwhile right here, but at the end of the day, it will find a Ravage, but it's in a rough situation right here, and if I'm DYS Fracture, honestly, I might just get out of the point and give it up, at least for this first fight right here. Taking it would prove to be extremely difficult, and that's what they'll do for now.
Yeah, they can look to re-engage with a Kitsune Rush of their own, so they're not going to have to worry about that. They might want to go quickly, though, because this Orbital Ray is looming 10% away. If they go in fast with the Kitsune Rush, they might be able to finish this fight up fast.
Yeah, seems to be intentionally be the case right here as Pig Whip and Millowers, unfortunately, are going to fall directly afterwards, so that's going to be an extremely quick fight. And the most important part, only took 1 ultimate to do it, and that means for this next fight, depending on how long it goes on, this could be a bit of an ult dump of a fight coming up.
Yeah, I mean, the Orbital Ray will come out and it will force out that sound barrier, but, you still have the Pulse and the Overclock to work with as well, and the Annihilation. DYS Fracture is set up perfectly on the second point defense. Bliss Marauders are the ones that are playing catch-up in the ult economy at this point.
Yeah, 100%. But either way, Millowers does have an ability to use this Orbital Ray, and in fact, it's going to get used extremely quickly here. And now the question is, how aggressive do Fracture want to be here? They have to be if they want to go in mega aggressive. And wait, hits the 2K on the Pulse. It is devastation, ladies and gentlemen. And now things falling apart. 70% in counting right here, or retouch. Honestly, even though the respawns are coming through, right, I don't know if they'll happen.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll happen either. And even so, they'll be going into a sound barrier and an annihilation as they're just going to look to push up and get aggressive. I don't know if anyone is going to be able to touch. Cage Fight's going to come out, and it's such a waste.
Yeah, and they're not even going to touch, and they get deleted. Bliss Marauders are literally falling apart at the seams, and the late stagger to boot.
As they are going to swap over to their Amasha. Looks like they were just using that to try and make some crazy play happen as they were planning to swap. But, man, all the momentum in DYS's favor. They saved their ults, and they're going to have another Kitsune Rush. I don't know how Bliss Marauders turn this around at this point.
Well, it has to happen. This is a do or die scenario right here. And a Kitsune Rush is going to force them to back out and simply just take the recall here. Take a moment to reset. You still have yourself the overclock. You have a tool to win this fight, but I don't think you can just walk all 5 into this room and expect that you're going to get something done here. That is my concern right here. Is they will come out, gets in a rest from Pig Whips right here as DJW gets eliminated on the spot right here. Now they're thinking they can come away with this, but the beacon's activated. Now that sound barrier is going to make it impossible for Saber to really get rid of anybody immediately right now. It's just getting pressured time after time again, and they might end up finding a pick at the end of the day. They're being forced into a small corner, which is the last place you want to be in. Bliss Marauders are falling apart, and it is rough to watch.
And they still save their annihilation with the DPS. Their ult economy for fracture and rotation is just superb. DJW is just reeling one to the Sombra now on the Sojourn. No ults in the rear view mirror. Maybe an annihilation for Bliss Marauder, as this is looking like it is the final fight and final opportunity.
It literally is the final opportunity here right now, and the recall getting used early by Saber does result in the health being taken back, and it's literally within an inch of their house facing each other right now. Saber, though, is able to get a mini health pack to sustain for a little bit longer, but DJW unfortunately gets taken out by Hamburger of all things, and now they're attempting to end this thing right here and now. Lucio in the wrong place at the time. You may have had the perfect season, but unfortunately for Bliss Marauders, their run will come to an end right here, and now the touch is trying to come through, but it is all desperation at this point. Miller was not even close. At the end of the day, DYS Fraction move on, and Bliss Marauders, the #1 seeded team, is knocked out for the... I cannot believe this. This is unfathomable, Ray.
I'm just in shock. 8-0 team.
Has that happened in any recent season where the #1 seeded team has been knocked out in back-to-back matches immediately? Because nothing comes to mind for me. Oh.
I don't think that's ever happened, but so is the EU division. Sometimes crazy things happen, certain metas hit, certain situations come about, and teams are able to thrive. DYS pulls off the upset, moves on to the losers finals as Bliss Marauders. Although you had the perfect season, it was not the perfect playoffs, but still a season to be proud of.
No, you do have to be proud of. I mean, everything's separate from this right here. I mean, you put up one heck of a banger in the mid-season championship. You win every game outside of that as well, including that semifinals in that mid-season. I mean, you have to be happy, but it's very much like the best way to compare this is like an Atlanta Reign 2023 situation where they seem like the most dominant team, in the league at the time, and then they touch the playoffs, and unfortunately it all turns into dust. And it's definitely going to be the one thing you think about while you look back at the season for the squad. But at the end of the day, as you said yourself, have to be proud of what you were able to accomplish beforehand. And just, I don't know, it's unfortunate for them, but this means that this creates a very interesting scenario here where the #3 and #4 seed gets to face each other. And I don't know, that'll be a pretty interesting matchup, I'll say.
Give you guys a quick update with the other game. EMC currently up 3-2 on Kira, put themselves on championship point to get the revenge coming from the lower bracket and losing in winners finals to win in the grand finals. But for us, we're going to take a quick break as we are going to be setting up an interview with you guys from DYS Fracture. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Everybody, welcome back to the final conclusion that has brought up between our Map 5 match here today. It was a back and forth affair the entire way through, but at the end of the day, only one team was going to be able to keep themselves alive, and that ends up being DYS Fracture. They win it in Map 5 territory, taking that last map dominantly on New Junk City. And Ray, I mean, it's shocking at the end of the day to see the number 1 seed be knocked out this quickly, back-to-back losses. But at the end of the day, while there is an unfortunate loss, there is a very grateful win as DYS Fracture will be able to move on. And Ray, you know the best part about this? We're getting double the fun because not just one person here, but we got 2 people here for this interview joining us here today. We have Ascend and Winch joining us from DYS Fracture. And first and foremost, my God, congratulations on a hard-fought win.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think it's as simple as the first question is just how you feel right now, because you got to feel something taking on the number 1 seed, beating them, and just being able to knock them out personally.
Well, they're a little bit of you could say rivals. We're it's a little bit of a little bit of history with them. We played them in a different league. We lost to them. I think we took it quite hard, and after that, it was kind of like we have to win this game. You know, like we were all. And I don't know. Like you were talking to Kill the Hog this week, Tom, weren't you? And you were saying like and he literally didn't say a word to you all week.
It's been
the game.
Like he's part of another team, one of my teams in a different league, and he's completely just ignored me the whole week. We play Clash of Clans together and things like that. He's fully been on it, and if I'm trying to get him to react to that game, it's just nothing. So we're just absolutely buzzing
he's been ignoring us.
Yeah, we can take this victory because, like we said earlier, we've lost to them previously in grand finals of different leagues, and this one just makes it so much better. Feels so much better.
It feels so much better. Yeah, it feels great.
Yeah.
So coming into this, how shocked were you guys to see them dropping so early into the losers bracket? And now that you guys beat them, how shocking is it that an 8-0 team like that is now out this early on?
We were aware of BX beating them.
It was hilarious.
They had not some of their main players weren't playing and thought they could take on their other Bliss team, but fell a bit short, bit unfortunate. And we're just
we
happy
we just enjoy it. Like that was my first game back in however long,
6 weeks,
so.
Innit? Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, no scrims or anything. So I was just happy to play really. But yeah, no. Other than that, I don't know. I think it's more just we've played against them for a long time, so we know that they're a very good team, especially like their support and their tank. But the rest, I don't know. They're just anything can happen, you know. Anything can happen.
For sure. And now that you guys got this victory, you guys will be facing Bliss Excel in the losers finals. And then if you guys win that, you're able to take on and try and get your revenge on EMC Canados. How do you guys like your chances trying to work your way through the losers and getting revenge on EMC?
I love them.
Yeah, we'd love to do that. I think we can definitely beat BX.
I think I want to play the best teams, and yeah, I do think BM like Bliss Marauders are probably the best team. So the fact that we've beaten them now feels really good. Yeah, it's about that really. It's
and we know we can beat EMC. We've done it before when Seb wasn't MIA because of his blindness. We were able to win against them, and so I just think we can take it all the way, get past BX, and actually show EMC what we're made of a little bit.
It should be funny, won't it? It should be funny either way.
Yeah.
We were talking about fish jokes by map 3. We were just a load of random jokes. I was in Kill the Hog's head telling him to ban Anna on Umbani. I say in his head. I absolutely wasn't. But you know, I was sending him little dad jokes to try and psych him out.
Oh god, the classic mind games, which was gonna kind of
Oh,
delve into.
absolutely.
I was gonna delve into my final question. Is what do you think kind of put you guys over the edge at the end of the day? Because it was extremely back and forth for those first 4 maps, and then we get to the 5th, and it felt like everything kind of just stopped and went your way. So, what do you think was kind of the defining factor that put you guys over them here today?
It's definitely all psychological. Like, I think we all have the players. I mean, I played first map. I think struggled a little bit with it. Yeah, struggled a little bit. Then Leaky comes in, who's been massive help to us, especially since Ascend's been MIA. And we're just from there, we're able to get momentum, keep going, keep battling through, and not get in our own heads, which we can do.
It's like the more we kind of turned it around, the worse it kind of got for them, I think. Like, the more, I guess, tilted they got, the more annoyed they got, and we, the entire time, I had a lot of jokes written down. I'll just say that. I had a lot of jokes and a lot of ideas and a lot of little things that I could say. It was very entertaining. Somehow I'm the co-captain of that team. I don't do anything. It's all Ravenge, but we ignore that.
Yeah.
Obviously seems like a very well fought victory. But before we let you go and obviously celebrate with the rest of the squad, or in your case, go and sleep, as we were referring to before. I mean, after a series like that, I'd probably want to sleep too. But if there's anything just you want to say, or anything, or anybody, either you two want to thank, I mean, we're gonna go ahead and open up the floor to you.
You know what?
My mom,
I'll give
my grandma.
Let's go.
I'll go ahead. I'll give it all to Rav. Rav is my younger brother, and he completely keeps the team together. He's been doing absolutely brilliant, and well done to him. So well done, Luke, and well done, Rav.
I'll say thank you to my manager, who was there the entire series, and kept talking to us, kept giving us advice, all this different, we wouldn't have won it. We wouldn't have won it without him. And his massive contributions to the series. Yeah, that's about it, really.
Okay, you know what? We'll take that at the end of the day. So, I mean, once more from the both of us here, I mean, congratulations on a hard-fought win, and obviously, best of luck going into the rest of the bracket. It's going to be one heck of a fight, but I mean, it's going to be an amazing one. I think it's as simple as that.
Fun. It will be fun.
Perfect.
Looking forward to it.
It will be great. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
All right. Well, we will be off then. Yeah.
Yeah. Y'all get yourself have fun.
Perfect.
You both have a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of your day.
Take care.
You guys as well.
You too.
Good night.
See you later.
I'm
Bye-bye.
going to bed.
Well, there you have it, folks. That was our interview with DYS. That was probably one of the most entertaining interviews I've done on CGL in a while. I love how close those teams were and knew each other, and setting dad jokes to frustrate the other team. That's always hilarious. Before we do get going, CGL 2, we're going to be rating them. Their grand finals diamond, and it is 3-3. It is going the distance, 7-map banger. So make sure you guys tune into that. But for us, that's going to be it for us. We like to thank all of you guys for tuning into this. Huge shout outs to Rhino and the Bakery for doing the prod and OBS on the series. We could not do what we do if it wasn't for you guys. Thank you, Hunter, for joining me on the cast. With that, we will bid you guys adieu for the day and see you on the next cast. And have fun watching the Diamond Grand Finals. We'll be see you at the next cast.
See you.
Name straight, new wave. straight new wave.
Our inside here, you know, you get an insight and you know something.